Today on today on today on
Doomed!
QAnon, oh QAnon. Where art thou, QAnon? Today on the show, we will be breaking down what has been going on with the QAnon movement. You know, that movement started in 2017 because Trump said something while he was talking to the media, and a good portion of his followers ran with it and somehow ended up believing that there was a cannibalistic group of Satanists who were trafficking children all across the globe while eating babies. And of course, they were all just happened to be made up of Donald Trump's political enemies. We haven't really been seeing much of them on the mainstream social media platforms. And on this episode, we will break down exactly what's going on because, let me tell you, QAnon is changing, but that doesn't mean it's going away. And joining me on this episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, who I will bring up right now on the program, so you can all see him on the feed if you're watching the live stream, is my good buddy, Jared Holt. Jared, thank
Hey,
you.
Matt.
Thank you so much for... Let me pull you up a little bit on the sound. You're a little bit low. There we go. That should be better. Thank you so much for joining me, Jared.
Oh, thanks for having me. I do have to stop and pause real quick because it does sound like you're disrespecting the hustle. It takes grit to be able to run the world, control multinational banks, orchestrate politics, and maintain such a vivid side hobby. It sounds to me like maybe you're just jealous, Matt, that you're not working hard enough to be able to participate in a satanic, child abuse cult while running a podcast.
It's true. I'm lazy. I mean, I should actually. I can't believe I failed to do this. I mean, you've been on the show so many times. I feel like people know who you are, but let me just give you the proper introduction so everyone could know all the things you do while also apparently, I'm assuming, believe in this this QAnon hustle, being that you're promoting it so much right now. This is Jared Holt, ladies and gentlemen, of the Atlantic City Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab and host of the Shitpost podcast. I mean, Jared's been on this show so many times, but I was just actually telling him before, it's been like 6 months, I think, maybe 5, because I think you did come on in like early February when we did like the special, like, last minute episode the day Donald Trump got impeached for the second time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, we haven't done a show together since then, I don't think. So it's good to be on. Doomed is a great show. It earns the me stamp of approval, and I'm definitely going to start calling the place I work the Atlantic City Council.
Did I call it Atlantic City Council? Did I really do that?
Yeah, but it sounds way cooler than the actual thing.
Dude, I am so tired. You have no idea. Thursdays are like a marathon for me because I do my normal job at Mashable where I'm a reporter, but I also do a segment, about an hour, some odd long segment, where I co-host with the Majority Report crew on the second half of the show. And then I prep for this show, and then I do this show. And this show sometimes goes 3 hours plus long. So, it's Thursdays are a marathon for me. I'm sorry if I called your job the Atlantic City Council. But also, I might also have cryptocurrency on the mind. I've been liking to gamble, buddy, and all those crypto guys have been on my case. I don't know if you've seen over the weekend. I was fighting with about 10,000 of them as they were literally pouring into my mentions to sell me on the crypto, the currency of the future, the money of the future.
I am very sure. Did you have a spicy opinion, like, something, really scorching, white hot, like, hey guys, I don't know about this thing?
Oh, I think I called it a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme and a scam, the whole thing, the whole crypto world. I knocked them for being all conservative reactionaries and techno-libertarians. And for the few leftists who were trying to sell me on it, I probably told them that they were just being, because this is not what I had you on the show to talk about, but the usual conversation I have with leftists who promote crypto is, why do you think crypto is good as a leftist? I made a lot of money from it. Oh, okay. Sold me.
Well, I mean, in that case, it has been undeniably good for a leftist.
That's true, right.
Probably several.
Right. And I'm sure, honestly, it would not surprise me. Well, it actually would surprise me because I'm assuming that the QAnon crowd probably would not. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I'd be interested to find out the Venn diagram of QAnon believers who also advocate for cryptocurrency. I really haven't seen it. Have you come across anything like that? I mean,
it's small, but it's out there.
Okay.
If you go looking for it, you can find it. And they got like a little irked whenever Trump went on, I think it was Fox Business News or something, the place for news about business, and said like Bitcoin was a scam and that the US dollar is fucking awesome or something. And like, they got a little irked about that.
You know who else has called the cryptocurrency a scam? Their Lord and Savior, former President Donald Trump. He literally just recently, he was on Fox Business and he said himself, he was like, I think it's a scam. And I mean, hell, some of them were trying to spin it as, oh, look, if Donald Trump doesn't like it, then he doesn't want you to if you hate Donald Trump, you should love Bitcoin then. And I mean, in my opinion, him not liking Bitcoin actually reinforces my view of it. I mean, because who would see through a grift better than one of the world's greatest grifters? I mean, a grifter's going to know a grift.
Yeah, when the scammer calls it a scam, trust it. Don't question it.
Right, yeah.
He has no, horse in the race to,
Right. If he did have a horse in the race, he'd be saying, let me tell you, I think Bitcoin is the currency of the future. Everyone's going to buy it. It's going to be great. But, So, Jared, I did have you on this show, though, to talk about QAnon. And you recently wrote this piece. And from what you co-wrote this piece with your colleagues. But Basically, from what I understand, the gist of it from apparently some people who have read it and have their own interpretation of it is that ding dong, QAnon is dead. Let's wipe our hands clean. It's all done, Jared. Victory!
Yeah, no, that's not really. I would point some of those people to the opening paragraph of the piece of the report. The first two sentences of it, I would direct them to that. The report you're talking about, I did this data collection and reporting with my colleague Max Rizzuto, who's just totally brilliant and helped me navigate like all these different APIs and data sources like DDoS secrets, Gab leaks, Trove, some of the quote unquote hacked Parler data played into that. And what we did was we picked out some terminology, some phrases that are popular and, kind of the telltale signs of QAnon as it has existed on the internet for the last, I guess like 3+ years at this point. So, and especially around the time of, this time last year when QAnon was experiencing this explosive growth. So, after the election, after Biden won the election, foiling the plan, and then more and more things kept happening that would seemingly disprove QAnon as if it is something that we have to be like, aha, as you see. Once you're there, you already lost, in my opinion. But like, anyway, so, there's all this like thinking and wondering about like, well, what are these people going to do? Because their prophecy failed. And, there is sort of this notion, there's also these claims of like, well, deplatforming totally works. They kicked QAnon off these platforms. We don't see it anymore. And then there was also sort of this dynamic of like these communities sort of changing how they talk to each other and what they think about. So we try to put the numbers together to the best of our ability to see, how much of these notions or gut feels from researchers, reporters, etc., actually kind of matched what was happening. And we found, we had something like 45 million data points in our set, which was kind of astonishing on its face that, these QAnon phrases appeared on the internet. It was 13 phrases, I believe, appeared these 45 million times over the course of about a year and 4 months, which is already kind of mind-blowing. But, what we saw, kind of confirmed some of our hunches, but also really kind of called into question some things. And there were definitely some parts that we exited the other side of this data gathering surprised by.
Right. And I think actually I reached out to you right before this piece came out for a piece that I was writing that sort of, I think that they sort of go hand in hand with what you discovered and what I wrote about in terms of like QAnon believers who you found out in your study. The deplatforming has worked, and at least most of their hashtags and slogans and their ability to spread their the telltale signs of a QAnon believer on the major platforms. But they've sort of gone, as I put it in my piece, undercover. They are going to not only different platforms, but they're also finding ways to exist on the mainstream platforms just without the overt QAnon signals, I guess you can say.
Yeah, exactly. What we found, and, you can check it out on DFR Labs blog where we posted or read one of the write-ups that was done about it.
There's a link in the YouTube description of this very live stream.
Yeah, so if you look at these graphs, you see like a QAnon that, as it sort of traditionally resembled itself, really roaring to life in the summer of 2020. And then as, the election grew nearer and tech platforms started taking action, started to kind of dwindle, started to kind of fade after the election. It starts to fade. And then after the attack on the Capitol, whenever these different tech platforms are like, all right, enough of this. We've got literally blood on our hands right now, so we're just gonna like finally finish the job and just not limit this post, not like hide these posts from the algorithm, but just start banning people. Then it just sort of flatlines after that. And tech moderation is certainly like one part of the story. I would say, that the correlation, and correlation is not causation, but like the correlation and relationship between these platforming efforts and the decline was sort of the strongest that we identified, rather, versus any sort of specific historical event or message from Q. But there are certainly plenty of other factors in play, in response to these deplatforming policies. Even if they are banned or not, it does create a behavior within the QAnon community to seek out alternative platforms or do like you reported on, which is fine. Try to come up with creative ways to stay on the big platforms, but maybe not mention, the exact kind of things that we were looking for in our data grab, which I'm sure is also what these platforms were looking for, to detect some of this content. So there's a whole like mix of factors in the bunch, but I think ultimately it points towards a QAnon that is both voluntarily and involuntarily changing. Part of what bound it together so strong was a common language. QAnon's like an umbrella for all these different conspiratorial beliefs, whether it's aliens, New Age medicine, the pedophile stuff, Hollywood stuff, etc. But they all had kind of a common language to talk to one another. And that common language has been forced to change, and some parts have sort of flown out the window altogether.
Right. Now I'm looking at the at some of the data that you have here in this piece, and some of the terms you tracked, and I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. That's what these are like. The list here, the chart shows, where we go when we go. Where we go when we go all. The Storm, Great Awakening, Trust the Plan, Pizzagate, Save the Children. There's and my favorite is there's Q and there's Anons. I love that one. They're so
good,
so clever, so clever, so clever.
Yeah, that's for those who aren't familiar. That is the smoking gun from Q followers. That the big fake news, like me and Matt don't know what we're talking about, which is there is no QAnon. There is Q, and then there are the Anons that follow it, and that's supposed to be like the gotcha. But that for a while, that was like these communities like go-to response to like every new article about QAnon stuff that would drop.
Right. They pretended it just didn't. QAnon didn't exist. How could how could the media be reporting on something that doesn't exist? I'm just an anon. There's Q who hasn't posted since December. But that's not nothing to do with that. I don't know who that is. I mean,
Right.
it's just so. The funny thing is, I forgot who posted it. But I saw someone posted some screenshots from one of the big QAnon forums. I think it was the Great Awakening. Where basically there was an internal argument like on the board among QAnon believers, where some people were saying QAnon and other people were getting mad at them, which isn't new. That happens. But something different that I saw that usually you don't see is that there were people fighting back saying, I'm getting really tired of this. Like, how are we going to pretend there isn't a QAnon? I mean, and it's like, wow, some of them are getting a little bit edgy about this, a little bit ruffling their feathers.
Yeah. The QAnon community has, I mean, I guess not unlike any other online community, has its own share of like infighting and drama. The influencers fight with each other. One, for dominance. Two, because everybody turns to look when there's a fight, so it's an attention thing. But yeah, it got a little prickly there for a little bit.
Right. Now, what do you think was the most important thing that happened? The real the tech policy or decision from any of these tech platforms that hit QAnon the most in terms of their usual slogans and signals to say that I'm here and I'm QAnon. What would you say was the decision from what company, and what was the decision that like sort of probably was their hurt the movement the most in terms of getting that stuff out there on that particular platform?
So I think there's actually kind of two. Well, I mean, I think if we look at the big three players, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, in terms of influence on the broader tech sphere, all three of those companies taking actions affects the community in different ways. So Facebook did some post limiting, I believe, but the most potent thing that they did was disband a lot of these Facebook groups that had QAnon content in them, because that was a huge organizing hub. You could drop a video in one of these Facebook groups, and QAnon believers believing it is their solemn duty to post like hell and spread the message of Q far and wide.
Digital soldiers, baby. Digital soldiers.
Could sometimes send shit viral like almost on their own. Like that Plandemic video, a big reason that went viral is like QAnon Facebook groups or communities more broadly. YouTube was like the main video hub for them a while. So YouTube changing their content on conspiratorial policy or conspiratorial content to try to catch up more QAnon accounts in that mix. Actually ended up being implemented fairly thoroughly. Of course, I mean, like with any of these sites, you can, if you look hard enough, you can find stuff that's flying through the cracks. But generally speaking, the major players, most of them got chopped down. But out of everything, it does seem that, from the data we were counting, which was new posts containing these phrases, Twitter was really like what ended up like blowing down dimensions of these phrases the most. And that could be a variety of factors. Maybe just one, that like people fight a lot more on Twitter, or like are encouraged to cross-pollinate a lot on Twitter with retweets and stuff like that. Facebook has shares and stuff like that, but it's less ingrained into the vibe of Facebook. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the platform of Twitter is like much more built around sharing and stuff. And also that's like where a lot of nodes of influence are. That's where Trump's Twitter account was. That is where, politicians, reporters, researchers are all on Twitter. So they go there and, get in fights with them or scream at them or, try to use that tool to their advantage. So, the big three, all of those policies and actions against QAnon ended up dealing fairly devastating effects, at least to like Gen 1 of QAnon or like how we used to think of QAnon. But as far as impact goes, as far as the data in our studies concerned, I do think Twitter's actions ended up being the most consequential.
Right. Yeah, I could see in terms of the where the media and the politicians are, for sure. I think Facebook probably had a bigger impact on like rank and file QAnon believers, in terms of like your mom and dad or grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever. Old high school or college buddies who got dragged into this. Facebook shutting that down probably had a really big effect on that, on how much they spread and continued to spread.
Yeah, I don't know how many people get like pilled off of single tweets or whatever, but like a Facebook group is a very potent thing, and that is just like reinforcing itself all the time. And like going into one of those groups definitely was a way that a lot of people wound up radicalized very quickly.
Right. Now, I want to bring up this piece that, I don't, it seems like she must have read your piece and was one of those people who who misinterpreted it. I don't know how you do, being that it's
I
pretty clear.
I'm pretty sure I already know what you're talking about
This
because I
Virginia Heffernan piece that
yeah.
that
Oh
really went
man.
viral. It went viral. Like she really got the reports of QAnon's death aren't exaggerated. And some of the things she says is she, brings up how its leader Q, a figure from the internet's dark side, hasn't posted for months. Q's been silent for 7 months. And she also goes on to say many QAnoners, she calls them, are now behind bars talking about January 6th. I don't know how many people she thinks. Either she thinks an incredibly small amount of people are into QAnon, or she thinks there are a shit ton of people currently in prison who believe in QAnon.
Well, it's the shaman, dude. All the energy was collected in the Q shaman, and when he got thrown behind bars and denied like whatever weird fucking diet he demanded, it was over. That was it.
Right, right.
No, this column like really frustrated me because I feel like the columnist Virginia gets if you go into like the body of the piece and read sort of what wound up on the page and like in the LA Times, she gets like kind of close to what's actually going on. Her Twitter thread is a completely different story and just like absolute BS, unfortunately, but, making all the wrong conclusions, jumping to all the wrong assumptions. But what she actually wrote, it's almost there. It's like, I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. It's like if you're at a basketball game and like the clock is ticking and the star basketball player just chucks the ball in the air from the half court. The buzzer rings. The ball is going in slow motion. Oh my God! It could make it. It could go in. Are you kidding? It could win the game, and then it just hits the rim and like flies out and hits your grandma in the head and gives her a concussion. Like that's what reading the column felt like to me.
Yeah, I mean it's bizarre because and now I guess we could get into this. Let's get into this part of it. So basically, QAnon is clearly changing. Like you wrote in your piece, they've had to change up how they speak on a lot of these platforms. Because again, I think we should stress here that your piece basically looks at these slogans and code words and these things that usually signaled, "Hey, I'm QAnon." Those are the things that have dwindled on social media. But that doesn't translate to those people not being there technically. Like,
Right.
just because they're not saying that stuff anymore. Like, obviously, there was a great purging that happened via Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, not so much. There were some influencers and bigger accounts. The groups were banned, but the actual people on those platforms on Facebook weren't. And when it came to YouTube, like you had to be overtly sharing violent conspiracy theories to be banned. Because if you go on YouTube, where we are streaming right now, there are actually a number of QAnon shows still streaming on the YouTube platform. But on Twitter, there surely was a purge of accounts that basically strictly platformed QAnon stuff, like QAnon conspiracy theories, QAnon beliefs and links, and etc. But, just because someone has an account banned doesn't necessarily mean they go to, oh, I can never use Twitter again. Woe is me. They'll just start a new account, especially if it's not like, if you're not someone who is going by your real name and is building like a brand based on your career or whatever. Like if you're already like Anon123, why wouldn't you just create a new account, Anon1234?
Yeah, and I think the sort of the simplest way to think about what our data shows is that it represents, so like the data represents a few things. One, deplatforming and even just the threats of deplatforming have moved some of these communities off of mainstream platforms. Telegram is a huge one. We could not obtain a very comprehensive data set for it, so we ended up just skipping it because any of our results would have been subject to just like what we're actually aware of. And if we just happen to forget, like, or just happen to be unaware of like a Telegram channel with 100,000 people in it blasting QAnon stuff all day, then the data's not good, right? So we ended up just sort of passing over it, which was such a huge bummer. We tried to figure out ways to not have to do that. But we had to because Telegram is huge for QAnon. They love Telegram, love Telegram. So like some of it has moved over to alternative platforms. It's also these moderation policies also, kind of changed the way that they talk to each other or how comfortable people are just posting like straight Q, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, the simplest way to think about this is like that QAnon is changing. We are now in like Biden era QAnon, whereas like when Trump was in office, they were like, hell yeah, baby, it's the plan. Look at Trump. He made a Q with his finger. We got this. Nothing to be scared of, boys. You get banned. Don't worry. After the election, Trump's restoring your account. And like, it's an exaggeration, but not so much
I'm
of
pretty
one.
sure I've seen some similar, if not exactly that, very similar. Yeah.
But now it's like it's harder and harder to make the case that like things are going to plan. And after the election, Q just like abandoned everybody. And this is a community that is kind of entering its next phase. But through these alternative platforms and to the degree that they exist in mainstream platforms and to the degree that it exists as a worldview and an ideology that experienced a surge in popularity in the last year, it's still very much with us. And, to look at it's so unfortunate. I wish Virginia would have just called me like reporters do to ask about, make sure that what they think our data shows is, what we're actually trying to, what we think it shows as the people who collected it. Unfortunately, that is the wrong conclusion to be like, oh, chart go down, QAnon dead. Like,
Right.
It's really not that simple. I think the data is useful to look at, but even then it's numbers on a graph, and there are like other contexts and other pieces of the story that are relevant when we think about this.
Right. I mean, I think, I think, the idea that, Q not posting anymore matters also shows, that you should have asked somebody, because it's been quite clear that Q not posting anymore has not really affected QAnon at all, if any. I mean, I'm sure they wish he did, and there was some sort of next step, but they've surely been able to use the old Q drops and repurpose them and try to find out what's in there and what's being said for that could relate to current times, current day. But also, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the QAnon influencers who are infighting, they're infighting for good reason, and that's because they're sort of taking over that empty space that Q has left. And I think this is where, and this is the next thing I want to talk about, because I think, the title I put for the stream was QAnon is changing. But it isn't. What exactly did I put? QAnon is changing, but it isn't going away. And I think, what we're seeing now is this transformation of QAnon. And I mean, I it's sort of perfect just to describe it. I think what we're at right now. To borrow a quote from Trump, I think right now we are in the calm before the storm, Jared. I think QAnon is currently changing in a way that will set forward the next stage of QAnon, and that stage is going to be, I think, a lot more dangerous. We've seen there was a recent, and you can toss this aside whoever you want, because it was a U.S. intelligence warning that basically said, it just came out like a day or two ago, where um, they said they fear that QAnon believers are going to start becoming more radicalized and more violent as they realize that none of the prophecies that they hope will bring Trump back into office come true. And again, you can be skeptical of what U.S. intelligence is saying there, and I totally agree with you. But I can tell you from what I have seen, U.S. intelligence doesn't have any sort of, they probably do have some sort of insider information, but they're also probably looking at some of the same channels that Jared and I look at, and are getting this from there. And I think the perfect example of that, and this was what I was talking about earlier today when I was on the Majority Report and giving people a bit of a teaser of what we were going to talk about on this episode of the show. I brought up that specific Telegram channel, Ghost Ezra.
Oh, dude. Marc Andre, I always mess up his last name. Just had this like great write up of Ghost Ezra. Definitely worth checking it out. I'm gonna try to pronounce his name. I don't know why I always struggle with it. I love his work.
I know who you're talking about, but yes, I'm not sure. He's like French
Marc
Canadian,
Andre
right?
Argentino.
Oh.
I don't know why I can't remember that.
I thought he was he had like some like French Canadian last name, and that's why it was hard. But
I think it's the accent.
Oh, there's an accent there. There you go.
Or the like two first names thing. Maybe that's what's giving me a hold up. But,
right.
But yeah.
Now, are you familiar with this channel, Jared? I'm sure you've come across it at the very least.
Yeah, man, it's hard not to be. Just because it is, as Marc Andre writes in his piece, quite well. It's like the perfect example of a major QAnon channel, like looking around, trying to fill the void in absence of the Q stuff, and then like turning to more extreme content, specifically like more explicit fantasies of violence or explicitly bigoted content or white supremacist content.
Right. And I think also how that channel blew up and when it blew up, or that influencer, I should say, blew up, is super important in the face of people who think QAnon is dying. There are QAnon influencers who've been out there since the very early days, like the late 2017, October, November, December 2017, when QAnon was still on 4chan before they moved over to 8kun.
And people on 4chan like mostly hated Q.
Right.
They're like, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck? You dumb boomer piece of shit. Get off of this board.
Right. And there are influencers who came in throughout the years as time went on. And then you even had some of like the late comers who were obviously always sort of flirting with it, at least for the past year, like, Sidney Powell, and what's his face? Oh my God, I'm having a mental block right now.
Mike Flynn, baby.
Oh, Mike Flynn. How could I forget Mike Flynn? He's not even who I'm talking about.
The general.
Right.
Linwood.
Linwood, thank you. That's who I was having a mental block for. Right. So these are all, Michael Flynn's been there for a while on the Q train. I love that his family's suing CNN as they continue to do like the QAnon oath every chance they get. For those who don't know, CNN did like a story about how Michael Flynn's family are QAnon believers, and they used footage of them like doing this QAnon oath, which apparently Michael Flynn also did in Dallas a few weeks ago.
Mike Flynn also picked up like a Q quilt and was helping auction off this like QAnon branded quilt, which is like I think Steve Monticelli, he was on your show too.
He was
right?
on my show too. Yes.
He made the rounds, dude. He's a great guest.
He was one of the few people who were there and didn't get kicked out. I mean, getting kicked out would also be something to be proud of, but to have successfully infiltrated the entirety of the weekend's events, that's also something to be quite proud proud of. So,
I'm just like trying to close my eyes and like picture in my head the person who spends $15,000 on a quilt designed with QAnon stuff. Because they're taking that back to like a McMansion. If you have 15 grand to
right.
just like blow on a quilt, it's like I just can't.
They're definitely of boomer age.
That's somebody. No,
they're
but I'm saying like that's somebody's boss or like probably many people's boss.
possibly.
And it's like, hey, boss, what'd you do this weekend? And it's like, you got to come back here. I got to show you my quilt, but you got to promise not to tell the FBI.
Well, it could be a retiree though. Who knows? But anyway, Ghost Ezra though, complete. Now we don't know who Ghost Ezra is. This isn't someone who's, you got your Jordan. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his last name right now. Thank you, Jordan Sather, and you had a number of other people who I just mentioned, and you got Patriot soapbox guy, like the people who were always like out there on, they put their face out there. We don't know who Ghost Ezra is. We don't know if it's a guy or if it's multiple people. We don't know. It's an anonymous account. But Ghost Ezra set up a Twitter account after the 2020 election. This is someone who came into QAnon, where I think it was even in December they set this up. This is someone who came into QAnon after Q stopped posting. And this person is now the largest QAnon influencer on Telegram. I actually think if you probably do the numbers, they're probably the largest QAnon influencer, period. We're talking about a Telegram channel with 330,000 people and growing. I don't know any, like if you had 330,000 people following you on like a mainstream platform that like the media was aware of, they'd be calling you, they'd be tracking every single move of this. Like, has there been any?
Yeah, you'd have blogs like just write up your tweets for content. Like, right. I could tweet like, "Damn, sure it's taken a long time to board my flight," and like a place like Mediaite would be like, "Jared Holt roast American Airlines for slow boarding process." Like that's what that kind of level of following on a mainstream platform can do.
Right. I mean, 330,000 plus people follow this Telegram channel. And like you said, this isn't someone who's just promoting QAnon stuff now. This is a channel who is this is an influencer who is falling deeper and deeper into anti-Semitic, Holocaust denialism, neo-Nazi rhetoric. Now, yes, there always was hints to that in various QAnon conspiracy theories, blood libel. A lot of that was in there. Sure. But mask off now. And, even if you weren't like before, like even like those hints of anti-Semitism, I'm sure there were a lot of QAnon believers who actually didn't pick up on it because you're just following whatever you hear, and you don't even realize this stuff if it's not so in your face. But this,
it was the type of anti-Semitism where it's like, I'm gonna make a list of 10 influential people that are evil satanic pedophiles. And notice their last names, and like it's that kind of anti-Semitism. Right. And then like Ghost Ezra is just like, Jews control the world. Like that, it's a jump, right? It's a little bit less, like the plausible deniability starts to lift away there at that point.
Right, and I this is what the far right was hoping for with QAnon, wasn't it? Like I really am, like I think that Ghost Ezra account, if it's ever uncovered who's behind that, I think it's going to be hugely insightful to what the hell is going on here, because we were hearing for as long, well before January 6th, well before Trump lost the election, there was always the far right talking about, oh man, when we red pill these QAnon people who are, maybe some of them are just in it for the anti-vaxxer stuff. Maybe some of them are in it because they're just old boomer normies who really love Donald Trump because they like a businessman who's in charge. Like, obviously that all brings you towards, right-wing ideology and authoritarianism, but it isn't overt, and you're not falling down the rabbit hole quite yet in terms of being a full-on, neo-Nazi, white supremacist, anti-Semite. But they knew that this was all softening these people up to take that red pill and then drag them down the rabbit hole for good. And like Ghost Ezra is a example of that dream becoming reality for them in mass.
Yeah.
300,000 fucking people. I really can't get over. Like, to give people an example, I might even be what's his name? The researcher you just cited.
Marc Andre.
It might have been him who I read this from too in a tweet. The next, like when we talk about hardcore neo-Nazi Telegram channels, the largest of those channels are probably about like in the low tens of thousands. We are
like the hardcore neo-Nazi stuff.
Yeah, like they don't grow.
Yeah, that's about right.
Like the ones like the neo-Nazi
The
white
one
supremacist
the ones that like
influencers.
pop. Yeah, the ones that like pop off have like 30.
Right. Low tens of thousands. Yeah, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. But we're talking about a channel that's spreading exactly that stuff with at 10 times that at the least. It's like, I don't think we've seen something so big in that world in terms of the number of people following this.
Well, I mean, we could go back to like 2014, right? The old timers in the chat and listening at home will remember the like early days of the alt-right. And so much of the conversation then, or I say alt-right, what we called the alt-right at that time. Alt-right was just a euphemism for a new generation of white nationalists. But anyway, at the time, there was all this conversation, specifically from these activists, about performing an action that is dubbed moving the Overton window. And it's been discussed ad nauseum at this point. I am kind of like even when I say it, my eyes kind of roll into the back of my head because I've just heard the phrase so much, or like heard the phrase applied to like everything. It's almost becoming cliche, but this is like definitionally a really good example of that, because by getting people engrossed in QAnon, you are getting them either adopting very kind of outlandish conspiratorial worldviews. You're getting them developing these sort of very visceral and emotional rejections of societal norms or authoritative sources of information. And, at the very least, you're getting people together in these communities where that is happening, and at minimum, like desensitizing that to them. So along comes Mr. How, it's impossible to say how many people died in the Holocaust, etc. Like, when you're already like in the fun house, like when you turn the corner and see like the next crazy thing, it's not as shocking as before. And, it's the way we understand like right-wing extremist groups, they are constantly churning through members and stuff. So they're always looking for that next chance to recruitment. And there were some very explicit discussions like a year or two ago about trying to turn all these Q people who are like terminally addicted to the internet and like very active and attentive in politics, even if they are completely off base, and trying to get them turned on to some of the more nefarious or dangerous beliefs that extremist movements hold.
Right. And someone in the chat, we're going to take some questions. So if you want to drop some questions, I'll try to get to as many as I can. It's hard to see some of them sometimes, but if you want to be sure, I will promise I'll get to your question if you drop it as a super chat, because then it'll be highlighted and I'll come across it for sure. But we got a super chat from James, who asks, odds that Ghost Ezra is just the Watkins, or Jerome Corsi taking back the meme? I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously we could speculate about anyone being Ghost Ezra because we don't know, but I mean, this account is so big. I would be shocked if someone who already was big was able to like strike gold twice without using their stature that they've already built up to help build it up. Like it's I don't it could possibly be anybody, quite honestly. I don't think it's Jerome Corsi. That one I'm not sure about. But the Watkins, I mean, it could possibly be. I don't know. This one is it might even I don't know. This is turned this channel has turned so and I'm sure would have some of these beliefs, but I don't know. It's so open about it. I wouldn't be surprised if this channel is run by just honestly someone who already has been out there as an out and out neo-Nazi or something like that.
Yeah, it's I don't want to like speculate too much.
Yeah.
I will say my gut is telling me no on the Watkins. And it's definitely telling me no on Jerome Corsi because Jerome Corsi has been renting out his newsletter to this super scammy like cryptocurrency
My man, yes!
investment firm. So that's like what he's doing right now. And like sometimes I talk about crypto stuff with Mike Hayden from SPLC, and we've agreed that the scammers in cryptocurrency are like the only people that we respect.
I honestly I think I have to start a cryptocurrency podcast or something, like because
Doomed coin.
I have gone totally full on into that world in terms of criticizing it all. I'm working on something right now that on cryptocurrency that's honestly blowing my mind in terms of like how some of the shit gets out there. I can't talk about it too much though because it hasn't been published yet, but I will definitely share it when it is up. So let's see if there are any other questions. Sardini asks, can you both comment on the New Age crossover, especially regarding UFO disclosure by U.S. military intelligence? Note that Ron Watkins is now doing alien leaks. Well, personally, I think it's just a way for them to get more conspiratorial normies into it. Like UFOs and aliens are probably like the most like non-dangerous of the conspiracies. Like you could put it up there with like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster. Like these aren't necessarily conspiracy theories that like if someone believes them, there'll be someone to be worried about. Like you can, if you know someone who believes in Bigfoot, they're probably, maybe weird in some aspects, but probably normal all around. They don't think Donald Trump is really going to ascend to the presidency once again in August. And I think this is probably their play to try to get more people. I mean, especially being that so much stuff has been coming out where, like, obviously it's becoming clear that UFOs and aliens probably do in some respect exist because of those videos. Although I believe that even like people in that world have explained those videos in terms of what they are in reality. Like they're unidentified flying objects do not mean alien aircraft. They literally just could be unidentified objects from this world. So I think that's the play. What do you think, Jared?
So it depends on the Q community that you go into. It's either just like, I would say some of the softer QAnon communities, the ones that really don't have much fangs on them, are definitely like kind of curious or whatever. I mean, it is like one of the oldest conspiracy theories out there is like what's going on in Area 51. And most people, like you said, don't get worked up about the alien stuff so much that they start like building militia compounds out in the woods and training for like an eventual war between aliens and humans. So like on the scale, it's again pretty soft. But if you talk to some QAnon followers, that's just exactly what the national intelligence apparatus wants. The CIA is releasing UFO stuff because those are safe conspiracy theories, and they want to take all the attention off how true QAnon is. And the election audit in Arizona. Ooh, that's wrapping up soon. What a great time to put UFO stuff out. Get all the attention there. That way people won't realize that an election was stolen and Trump will rightfully reascend to the throne later this year. Trust the plan, hold on tight. Like there's kind of like two scripts and then like a little bit of gray area in between.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's yeah. I mean, I guess there are multiple reasons to go after the UFO people. That's for sure. I mean, I mean, for me, I mean, this is not obviously the point of this conversation, but obviously, I mean, it seems like the most plausible of all the conspiracy theories. The idea that we would be so pompous to believe we're the only living things out there is pretty, yeah, but that is what we do. Imseti asks with a super
Wow.
chat.
SMDH, Matt Bender, believing CIA propaganda again.
Imseti says via super chat, there's an alien connection that's worrying, but it's a little more complex to get into. Oh, can fill you in later if you want. Oh, okay. I guess you'll have to let me know later.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, there we go. So, Jared, do you... Oh, wait, hold on. Neo Ripshaft says, yep, Jared's spot on. I've heard QAnoners who are ardent believers in aliens say pretty much exactly that. Right. I mean, I guess we could also bring into this the idea that the recent push that January 6th was all a plot by the FBI. This is something that has been pushed via various right-wing media outlets, and I guess I should play this.
And some figures, like pretty prominent writers, I'm gonna do the thing where I switch the first letter of the first name and the first letter of the last name. That way, it's not totally clear who I'm talking about. Glenn Greenwald.
I mean, let's.
I don't want to dive into him because I'll just get upset. But like,
right.
just completely bummed.
Right.
But like,
let's get.
But yeah, it's like between like him and like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. It's like it went from like, because there was one guy who was like kind of sort of, but not even really like Antifa at the Capitol riot who got arrested. Then it was like the riot was an Antifa thing. And now it was like an FBI thing because people don't understand how charging documents work, and think that like unnamed sources in a charging document is like a substitute for secret agent, which sometimes it is, but usually it's not.
Right. I mean, listen, obviously the FBI has a history of, especially when it comes to Muslim people, and when it comes to like environmentalists and animal rights groups, leftist organizations, of infiltrating and pushing troubled people into doing things that they normally wouldn't do if they didn't have those means that the FBI provides when trying to sort of entrap them. So I understand that in terms of being skeptical about these things. But, I mean, well, number one, here's this. We do know that there was FBI involvement somewhat with January 6th, because we know that members of the 3%ers and Proud Boys have offered themselves up as FBI informants. I mean, they don't want to spend any time on that. Now, these are people who are fully involved and believe in everything here, and they're just out trying to save themselves from trouble by ratting on their buddies. And, I mean, so yeah, we do know in terms of informants that there was involvement there. But that doesn't necessarily in any way, shape, or form mean that the FBI was involved in the planning of the event. If anything, what we know signifies that they were probably able to find everybody rather easily because there were people who were there informing the FBI yeah, that was so and so. He lives here, here, and here. I know his contacts. Here's his information. There you go. I mean, we know that these groups had people. I mean, the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique, what's his face? I'm having another mental block right now.
Tario.
Thank you. He is has been an FBI informant himself.
Yeah, I mean, as tough as these guys talk, as soon as like they wind up in the, metaphorical interview room sitting across the table from a couple agents, most of these guys flip like, any other scared person would. And something that this claim like completely misses is that it's pretty standard practice in indictments where if there is a subject in the indictment, so like if you see like an unnamed source or a confidential source, that can mean a few different things. It can mean a agent of that agency. So like it is possible that that is like an FBI agent. It could be an FBI informant, which is different because they may receive some sort of compensation, but they're not a government worker. They are maybe a member of a group that is providing information in exchange for money or in exchange for not being prosecuted on their own. It could also just be somebody that they are actively like crafting a case against, but haven't charged, because they don't typically like if they're getting information from an investigation of one case and using it in another, which we've seen them do over and over again in these charging documents, like using cases to inform other cases. If that person hasn't been charged with a crime yet, they'll usually leave their name out for the time being and then sort of if those charges do get to the point where they're ready to file them, then they'll kind of retroactively go back and, in documents as the case goes further, as that evidence goes further, we'll then start putting the name in there, because otherwise it could be like a tip off or, there's like a flight risk involved. So, I am personally of the belief that if the FBI was involved with orchestrating the attack on the Capitol, I want to hear all about it because that sounds like some like James Bond or like House of Cards type shit.
Right.
But you're gonna have to do like way fucking better on proof than this.
Right. You know what we could do, Jared? I mean, obviously, if the FBI is involved with the organizing of the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, what would be a really great way to find out more information would to be to have a commission.
Yeah,
I mean,
preferably bipartisan with full subpoena power.
right. And I feel like we were so close to having one of those, but I can't remember what happened, Jared. Do you remember?
Yeah, it like came down to I think it was a vote, and the Republicans said no.
What? No, you gotta be kidding me. I don't believe that one. I think you got your wires crossed. I mean, obviously, if the FBI was involved in January 6th, and that would completely change who is viewed by the majority of the American people as the perpetrators, those at fault for January 6th. That would completely change what everybody knows and believes about January 6th. And so I assume that if you were the ones being blamed, i.e. if you were the Republican Party or Republicans or Trump supporters, you would want to get to the bottom of the FBI's involvement, and thus you would support the commission. I think you're misremembering, Jared.
Well, it's, like one would think that you would want to aggressively pursue at the level and fury of Benghazi any exculpatory evidence that, corrects this notion that you may have been either tacitly or specifically complicit in a attempt at insurrection. But, it's just kind of like faux pas. It's not trendy. It's not cool. Commissions are boring. And, Republicans have to get to doing like way radder stuff, like making sure there's no chance in hell that we even think about Juneteenth. something that they have supported over and over again in years past.
Oh, right.
But
I got plenty of
decided this year was like actually anti-white racism or something.
right. So let's. I mean, I wanted to play that Tucker Carlson clip, but you can't hear the sound, so maybe I'll hold off on that. You know what? Fuck, screw it. I mean, have you've seen the Tucker Carlson clip, right?
I think
Of
so.
him on the his claims that the FBI were involved with January. Yeah, let me play that really quick, and then we'll quickly talk about. I want to bring these screenshots up on the screen. Let me play this Tucker Carlson clip first because we were talking about it, but I think people should see this. So you won't hear it, Jared, but I'll stop where it's relevant and we'll discuss after I get you up to speed. Here's Tucker Carlson on his Fox News program a day or two ago after he read the report from the right-wing outlet Revolver News claiming, yeah, boom, saying that the FBI was involved in January 6th.
Every single case, they were FBI operatives. Really, in the Capitol on January 6th. For example, one of those unindicted co-conspirators is someone government documents identify only as Person 2. According to those documents, Person 2 stayed in the same hotel room as a man called Thomas Caldwell, an insurrectionist, a man alleged to be a member of the group the Oath Keepers. Person 2 also, quote, stormed the barricades at the Capitol on January 6th alongside Thomas Caldwell. The government's indictments further indicate that Caldwell, who, by the way, is a 65-year-old man.
I love how Carlson brings up that Caldwell, who is one of the people who is being charged, who it's his case that he's bringing up, who has the unindicted co-conspirator. He brings up how he's 65 years old, and he really stresses it, as if a 65-year-old man could never break the law. I mean, so bizarre. But let's continue. Also, he seems to believe that that the co-conspirator automatically means FBI agent, which we've already discussed is not the case.
It could be the case,
right?
But there is also several other options that it could be, and it's completely irresponsible, especially with a platform like Tucker Carlson has, to so aggressively jump to that conclusion.
Right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jared.
And like I said, if there is dirt on the FBI's hands, I want to hear all about it. But this doesn't cut it for me.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but there was someone else who, and I believe the Majority Report stressed this and pointed this out, I should say. There's someone else that Fox News really loves that was referenced as an unindicted co-conspirator in a case. And unless I'm wrong, Donald Trump was never an FBI agent unless we don't know that he was undercover or something.
He has become the swamp.
Well, he doesn't need to be an FBI agent to have made that true. But let's continue with this clip.
This dangerous insurrectionist was led to believe there would be a, quote, quick reaction force also participating on January 6th. That quick reaction force, Caldwell was told, would be led by someone called Person 3, who had a hotel room and an accomplice with him. But wait, here's the interesting thing. Person 2 and Person 3 were organizers of the riot. The government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that?
Okay, all right, so he's now harping on the idea that Person 2 and Person 3, who are mentioned in this indictment, who are the unindicted co-conspirators, are referenced as organizers of the event. I mean, we know the organizers of the event. We know a lot of their names. And we know a lot of them have not been indicted. I mean, fucking Alexander.
What was I saying just earlier? If they haven't filed charges on somebody yet, they usually don't put their name in a charging document, especially not at a federal level. So it seems very likely that what this anonymous name actually represents is that the FBI or the DOJ is actively looking at the potential of filing charges against the organizers of events on January 6th.
Right. And you know who else, by the way, could be considered an unindicted co-conspirator who had a hand in organizing the day's events? That could also be discussing someone like an Alex Jones, who, again, we know has not been charged, has not been indicted, and had a hand in organizing the event. I mean, I could go on probably for hours with all the people who we know that would that label could pertain to. I mean, I'm not speculating who those specific person 2 and person 3 are. I'm just saying that any of those can hypothetically be an unindicted co-conspirator. There's only about 30 seconds left of this clip. Let me continue.
You know why. They were almost certainly working for the FBI. So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol
Not almost
on
certainly
January
working for
6th,
the FBI.
according to government documents. And those two are not alone. In all, Revolver News reported that there are, quote, upwards of 20 unindicted co-conspirators in the Oath Keeper indictments, all playing various roles in the conspiracy, who have not been charged for virtually the exact same activities, and in some cases, much, much more severe activities, as those named alongside them in the indictments. Huh? So it turns out that this white supremacist insurrection was, again, by the government's own admission in these documents, organized at least in part by government agents. Are you shocked? We're shocked. We shouldn't be shocked. Because in March, the FBI director admitted...
All right, well, I think it's hilarious that he says that he's shocked, but we shouldn't be shocked because the FBI director... he goes on to the FBI director said something to the effect of the FBI's involvement with tracking these groups. But that's not what would make you not shocked if there was FBI involvement. What would make you not shocked is the fucking entire history of U.S. intelligence. I mean, are you kidding me? The idea, it would not be crazy to find out that the FBI was tracking people and keeping an eye on people and involved in learning about what was going on. Hell, I wouldn't even be shocked if we found out that there was someone in the FBI who was embedded with the 3%ers, with the Oath Keepers, with the Proud Boys, who did go along and push this stuff forward too, along with the other right-wingers who organized the event. But here's the thing. Nothing Tucker Carlson said is proof of it. It's not even close.
Yeah, it just doesn't hold up. It's like, I mean, yeah, and like, I don't know that I would go like, so like the agencies are a little different. I don't think the FBI has ever done something like on that level on the domestic scale. Certainly like the CIA has. But so it would definitely like set a precedent if that was true. And if you're going to like make such a humongous claim, you have to have humongous proof.
Right.
And all this really boils down to is just like, I'm too stupid to read 3 fucking blog posts about like the law.
Right. So Jared, let's move on to this last thing. Just a couple more minutes. You brought up the current outrage over the idea that this country would make a federal holiday to celebrate the end of slavery in the U.S. I mean, I can't think of anything more divisive. Can you, Jared? I mean, the right is absolutely right, of course, that this is something. I mean, this is just insanity. This is insanity.
This is ridiculous, man. This is like, so many of our holidays are just utter bullshit. Like, for so long, you know, we've been celebrating fucking Columbus Day. Wow, imperialism at its finest, folks. And then it's like, but this is like actually something worth celebrating. It's like one of the things we fucking got right along the way, which was like, oh, looking up and being like, damn, slavery. Actually, maybe not, folks. And of course, like, problems are stemming from that to this day. Like, it has ingrained so much dog shit in our country, both societally and also systemically. But like, this seems like something everybody should be able to like wrap their heads around, which is like, oh, ending slavery, that's good. We should recognize that and use that as a moment to like reflect on that and remember that that was pretty fucked up and that we shouldn't do it again. But apparently not. It's like all these people just need fucking things to get mad at now, and like half of the GOP in Congress is just trying to be influencers. So even people that enthusiastically supported Juneteenth and would be like, wow, why didn't Obama make Juneteenth a holiday? But now the Republicans are doing it. I guess the Democrats are the real racists, are now like flipped on it and think that it's white genocide to recognize that like ending slavery was good and to give everybody a fucking day off because of it. Because why not?
Right. It's so like here's this to me is the real, and I saw you retweeted this, so I grabbed these screenshots to share. This to me is the real, like nothing shows just the right-wing mindset as well as these tweets from Charlie Kirk over the past, I think it's just the past like 2 years. Here is Charlie Kirk. I'll read each tweet as I put it up on the screen. Here's Charlie Kirk, June 19th, 2020. So that's last year. This is your daily reminder that we wouldn't be celebrating Juneteenth had Republicans not freed the slaves. Now, for those who aren't aware, if you watch this show, you probably are. Charlie Kirk is the founder of Turning Point USA. He is a huge, major right-wing influencer, I guess you can say. He has his own podcast show now, but he gets tons of money from various conservative groups and conservative, wealthy conservatives, basically selling them the idea that he is saving the youth by turning young people on to Republicans and conservatives.
Yeah, he's gonna red pill your grandkid by posting something like, actually, it was the Republicans that freed the slaves, and then your grandkid is gonna be like, that's so epic, Charlie. I love free markets now, and like,
right. And now here
it's
he is.
It's amazing, dude. It's amazing it fucking worked. I'm in the wrong profession.
Right, I think that all the time. Here's Charlie Kirk that same day last year. Today is Juneteenth, celebrating the end of slavery in the United States. This was made possible thanks to Republican President Abraham Lincoln. Today, Democrats are fighting to tear down his statue. Now, I don't know any Lincoln statue that was ever in danger. Are you aware of any Lincoln statue, Jared? Yeah, I didn't think so. Here's Charlie Kirk. Last year again, the day after Juneteenth. This is June 20th. Senate Republicans are introducing legislation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. Barack Obama and Joe Biden were in the White House for 8 years. Why didn't they ever do it? Thinking face emoji. Now,
oh, that's his favorite.
Right. Now, here we go. The fourth tweet. Now, you guys, you know what you're going to see. You're obviously going to see a tweet from Charlie Kirk celebrating that finally, a year after he tweeted all that great stuff about how Republicans ended slavery and wanted to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, he clearly is going to be celebrating this momentous occasion where Juneteenth is now actually a federal holiday. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. This was posted today. Lincoln knew America's founding was July 4th, 1776. He knew that was the day our amazing nation made a step from ideal to reality. Juneteenth, in quotation marks this time, is an affront to the unity of July 4th. We now have 2 summer holidays, and one of them based on race. Shame on the GOP for supporting this. Oh, the humanity, Jared. Oh, the pain, the horror, the suffering of Charlie Kirk. Oh my God. I mean, the real part this whole thing is incredible, but I especially love when he has to point out that we now have 2 holidays in the season of summer. Oh my God, Jared, what would we do with 2 holidays in one season?
Oh, dude, and I forget who said it. I think it might have been that account, like Garlic Corgi or whatever. You know the one I'm talking about? Yes. That pointed out that like that series of tweets was compiled and posted by Justin Amash, and if you get bodied by that dude, like you absolutely that's almost humiliating, even beyond like the content of the tweet. Just that he's able to like if that's like getting beat up by like a toddler.
Right.
As far as
Wait,
like
that's who I saw it
online
from. Right,
clout
right,
goes.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you for accrediting the proper. Yeah, don't want to, especially libertarian, don't want to mess it up with
Yeah, you let a libertarian dunk on you, dude. Congratulations.
Right, right. All right, Jared. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, there was. We don't have time. I'll talk about it in the second half. I wanted to. I saw that you were tweeting also about Tim Pool's latest hire.
Oh my god, that could be like a whole other episode. I'll have to come back sometime.
Right, right. I'll talk a little bit about it on the second half, so people who want to know can find out. But we'll definitely have to talk more about it when you come back on. One last question, Jared. This one might be the hardest one of them all, from a listener in the. Where did I see this? From a listener in the chat. This is from Dockers11. Now here we go, Jared. This is a hard one. Is that a Pomeranian?
It is Pomeranian. Let me see. Pierre? He's sleeping.
Oh, they must have sent that to me a while ago. Then
I'm
So,
sorry. Pierre has gone to bed. He is sleeping now. So, but yeah, it is Pomeranian. He's 9.8 pounds. Follow him on Instagram at Pierre Turbo. He's a great dog.
Jared,
Good
you sure you want to leave right now, because apparently we just got raided on Twitch, and there are now a bunch of people in the but no, it's all right. If you got to jump, no big deal. I think who do I say? Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Rated?
rated.
R-A-T.
No, raid.
Oh, rated.
Raid.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I know what rating is. I thought you were talking about something else. Do you know where it's coming from?
Oh, yes, I do. Jordan Uhl is in the Twitch chat right now.
Oh, incredible.
Right. I just got a bunch of hello, everybody. Hello, Twitch viewers. We have much more coming, even though Jared Holt is jumping right now. You could also rewind. I don't know if you could rewind on Twitch. Can you rewind on Twitch? I know you could. I'm simulcasting right now. This is also on YouTube. And so you can rewind on YouTube. If you can't rewind on Twitch, I'm sorry. But this episode will be up in its entirety via YouTube live stream. It'll stay up on YouTube for replaying purposes. And also it'll be up as a podcast in a little bit. But right now, Jared is saying goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Jared Holt, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Where could everyone find you, Jared? And where could they check out all your wonderful stuff?
Check me out. I'm on Twitter, Jared L. Holt. I've got a podcast called Shitpost. It's pretty good, but every once in a while I have this guy named Matt Bender on, and he's kind of a prick, but we make do. And
when Jared says every once in a while, he means like every once. I haven't been on in a while, buddy. What are you talking about? Are you promoting it as if I'm some sort of regular?
No, we'll get you back soon. Matt. And you check out my work at DFR Lab. I do some interesting stuff there from time to time, and my colleagues do some really cool stuff. And very last thing, next week, the Digital Forensic Research Lab is hosting this totally free thing. It's going to be dope. It's 3 days of like everything: extremism, misinformation, digital democracy, not just in the US, but as these issues hit all around the world. It's called 360 OS. If you find me on Twitter, like wherever, there's links to it there. You can sign up for free, tune in whenever you want, tune out whenever you want. But that is going to be super cool. So definitely check that out.
And I want to stress it's the Atlantic Council, not what I called it earlier in the show. It's not the Atlantic City Council. I still can't get over I did that. But thank you so much for joining me tonight, Jared. Always, always, always a pleasure. And to everybody else watching the show right now, we have much, 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 much more for you. So stick around. Just give me a... Well, first of all, I'm going to do... So first of all, goodbye, Jared. I'm going to hang up on you now. Say bye to Pierre for me, being that he's sleeping. We have much more for you, though. First, I'm going to do some quick promotion of the various ways you support this show. Then we will take a quick not even a minute, just like 30-second break so I could refill my drink so I could not be parched for the rest of the show. And then we're going to go into much, much more, including Tim Pool's latest hire for his show. We will also talk about, what else do I got for you? Let me see what else I pulled for you. Oh, we also got Project Veritas's latest big expose that they said they were going to blow the lid off of Fox News. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, they did not. We will talk about that. Fun clips to play. First, though, I would like to say you can support this show by becoming a supporter on Patreon at patreon.com/MattBinder. When you support this show by becoming a patron subscriber, you help keep this show growing and going. And people who make this show possible, I will name some of them right now. First off, I cannot forget to name the people who just joined the Patreon since the last episode last week, and that would be Explorewin. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Victor B, thank you so much for becoming a patron. And Indira S, thank you so much for becoming a patron. And of course, there are other wonderful patrons, like the longtime patron subscribers like Champagne Communist, Daniel S., Dragon Slayer 19, Christine H., Max W., Benji A., Mr. Danks, Jack C., Katie S., Namde Net, Odeth, Abigail T., Greg D., Dank Uger, JLS, Finn, Why That Tie Guy. Thank you all so much for being patrons. That's just a few of them. I cannot even name you all the patrons anymore. But if you can afford to do so, always stress that. If you financially cannot, or you're not sure even financially, please do not. I get it. But if you can, patreon.com/MattBinder. And if you cannot support this show financially, you can support this show for free by subscribing at youtube.com/MattBinder. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/MattBinder. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you listen to wherever you are on social media, I should say. Usually it's at Matt Binder, but you just search Matt Binder and find me on there. Go to ratethispodcast.com/doomed. And when you go there, there'll be a list of places where the podcast is in, like the directories like Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, etc. And you can easily get to the different places you could leave podcast reviews. Podcast reviews are extremely helpful to this show. Where's my phone? I'm going to read a review right now because I always love reading the wonderful reviews I get. Some of them are funny. Some of them are very sincere and meaningful. And I love them all. I love every single one of these reviews because they help me help people find out about the show, to be quite frank. Here is a review from Watermelon, with the E as a 3 and the M as a... the L as a 7, excuse me. Serious issues without the stuffiness, it looks like. It's cut off. This podcast has excellent quality interviews with knowledgeable people explaining pressing and confusing issues, and yet somehow manages to remain kind-hearted and funny. Thanks, Matt Binder. I love that. Thank you. I'll read one more. Grapiste 111, or grappist. I don't know. Whatever it is, there you go. Unique, they say. Matt covers the dangerous right-wing crazies that nobody else does. And, good reviews help people find this show. How else can support this show? How else? If you're in the super chat right now on YouTube, you could drop a super chat. I will read all the super chats. It's like a one-off donation that basically promotes your comment in the YouTube chat. And I will also, what else will I do? Jay Creets said, did Matt just swear twice? When did I swear? I don't even know anymore. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? That's it. I guess we'll go to the second half. Oh, I'll open up the phone lines. You could call in if you want to talk cryptocurrency, and join. I was hoping someone would do that because I got into, like I said earlier in the show, but for you Twitch people who just jumped in, I got into a huge fight over cryptocurrency with a bunch of crypto advocates over the weekend, and a lot of them said they were gonna. Well, a lot of them, meaning like 3 or 4, said they wanted to call into the show and talk with me about cryptocurrency, and explains to me why it's obviously going to be the money of the future, and fiat currency is dead, and Bitcoin, baby. I hope someone like that calls in, but anyone is welcome to call in. Just open up Skype, download Skype, it's free, and then search the username Doomed Live, and I will take your calls. We'll have a lot of fun. So give me 1 second here. Oh, one more thing, and this is not to put anyone on the spot here, because I want to know actually what I can do better. Usually when we lose a patron, it's a fan of the show who says that their financial situation changed. Because when you leave the Patreon, you can say why you left. And literally 99.999% of the time, it's my financial situation changes. And they don't have to explain anything to me. Whatever you got to do, I get it. But today I lost a patron who says Matt Binder wasn't as active as I expected. And I truly want to fix that. If you are a patron and you would like to see different things going on in the show, let me know, because I have no clue I would love to do more. I would love to do whatever makes you feel like, well, I don't want to do whatever makes you feel like you get your money's worth, because this isn't OnlyFans. But I would like to do whatever would make you feel like you got your money's worth within reason. So definitely let me know via patron message, or a comment on the patron post, or at me on Twitter, or DM me on Twitter, or email me, or you know how to get in touch with me. It's all on, you go to doomedcast.com, where you can listen to the podcast. You can at me at Matt Binder on Twitter. Just, the drill. Reach out to me. Let me know what I can do to make this show better for you. If, you're thinking of leaving, and it's not a financial issue, or you're almost going to become a patron, but there's something keeping you from becoming a patron. I want to make everybody feel like they're getting their money's worth. And if I can make this experience more fun and better for you, I want to do that. So with that being said, give me 30 seconds to fill up my drink, and I will be back shortly. For people who aren't watching live on Twitch or YouTube, and for people who aren't patrons, basically just the podcast listeners who aren't paid subscribers, this is where I say goodbye to you and say, see you next time on Doomed. We are back. Give me 1 second to just put my headphones on. Here we go. We are back. Here I am. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second half of the show, where we take calls. I'm going to log into the phone system right now. We play some clips. We read some questions and comments. We have a lot of fun. And this show will be no different. Let me log in right now to the... Oh, and patrons, by the way, I know I still have issues with the Discord channel letting you in right away when there's something. I'll fix it. With the automated system that Patreon has set up, where You become a subscriber and you get access to the Discord for subscribers. You get access to that Discord. Just literally message me if you are waiting for that access, and I will get it for you right away. I know some people, I just saw some messages just now. I will get you all access to that Discord. You're not missing much. The Discord isn't quite that active because we just, I had some issues again with people getting in there, but that's being fixed. More people are joining in, and we already have a caller. Let me take that call. We are talking to... All right, you are on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Matt. It's Rem.
Hey,
How you
Rem.
doing?
How you doing?
Doing okay. Just pretty frustrated with all the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, we are getting
Pretty frustrating, folks. Is all I'm saying.
It's annoying because we are getting to a point where I mean, if everyone just got vaccinated, we'd be done with all this. I mean, here in New York, they just pulled back all the COVID restrictions pretty much because we are at like a 70% vaccination rate. To me, that's pretty high and good enough, I would say, to say you don't have to wear a mask anymore. I mean, I still have it with me. I don't wear it outside.
Yeah, same here.
I don't wear it outside right now unless I'm walking down certain areas where there's lots of traffic, which means lots of people, which means it's very close to the equivalent of how you would be in a packed room indoors with people. So that's when I sort of just like put it over my face. And that's more out of respect for other people. I'm vaccinated. I'm not really worried about myself right now. Also, indoors.
Yep, I'm vaccinated as well.
Indoors, I totally understand still why some places have those rules, and that's their prerogative. That's their place. They can make the rules in there. So yeah, I mean, I feel like, God damn, just get vaccinated already, people.
Well, that's exactly the thing. If you don't mind, if I can go off on a teeny weeny little tangent about one of my friends, one of my good friends actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're not really believing in all this stuff. I mean, we've gotten into arguments over the phone, and he's pretty convinced that it's all bullshit. Like it's not that bad, and he keeps finding all these conspiracy theorists. I keep trying to tell him that they're all Looney Tunes. He's sending me stuff on TikTok. There's a lot of like conservatives and conspiracy theorists on TikTok, and he just keeps sending me those things, and it's so frustrating. I never know what talking points to use because he keeps stumping me. I'm like, damn it, I have to show you like a whole like 4-hour video or something for him to get it, but he won't do that. He likes conspiracy theories because people who are into conspiracy theories like this, because it's simple, it's easy to understand for them, and I get that, and I get why people are frustrated and confused and annoyed with our government and blah 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 blah. But I keep trying to tell him like this is real. This is going to do things. So my his big thing was like this video where it was showing the needles not going in right or whatever, or he'll send me videos about people like storming into hospitals like, where are all the bodies, where are all the people. It's just very cherry picking kind of stuff, and it's just of crazy people just going nuts, and they don't really prove anything. They just
right. Do you know how your friend is coming at this? Are they someone who usually was into conspiratorial things, or was this something new? Is there conspiracy theories straight up political ideological related, like QAnon, or is it more just general conspiratorial distrust?
That's the thing though. He's not a right winger or anything like that. He's very apolitical. Like most of his life, he hated when I talk about politics, but up until COVID, he's just so convinced that it's just not like, it's like a big deal. They're just pushing the vaccine. They're just pushing things. I'm like, well, that's just the media. That's what they do, or that's just capitalism. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're knee deep in all this conspiracy stuff. That's all you're listening to. Then that's all you're going to hear. I mean, or I don't watch a lot of TV or hear a bunch of ads. I hate ads. I try to avoid them as much as I can. So I don't really hear all this stuff he's hearing. So he had this story he told me of his friend, or no, his father had a friend that went off and did they did fentanyl together for the first time. Weird drug to use for the first time, to have fun with. I'm like, ew, yikes, that's pretty hardcore. All right, whatever. So one of them ODs, and then the other one ODs by taking them in the back of the cop car to get rid of the drugs. That was smart. One of them dies, and then the medical experts tells the guy, like, oh, he OD'd. Oh wait, never mind, he had died of COVID. So he tells me this case like this is like a gotcha of some kind. Like then all cases are like this. And all cases are like this, or a big chunk of them are like this. And I just don't know what to tell him. I'm like, I'd have to learn more. I'd have to hear it from him. I need to read more about the case. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's okay to be skeptical. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to, but yeah, I think it's probably not what he's saying it is.
For sure.
But yeah, listen, I think there's going to be people you're not going to be able to get across to.
For sure.
People who are just too far gone. And,
Yeah.
you know, you I don't know how this person is otherwise, so I'm not going to say cut them out, but you know, sometimes you might have to cut people out of your lives, you know. But again, if this is just the one thing in there, you know, everything else is it's a hard thing to sort of juggle. You know what I mean? But yeah, I totally understand the frustration for sure.
It just gets offensive, you know, because he just starts saying like, oh well, you know, it's like the Jews, you know, you have to show your card to your vaccine cards to people, or you can't be in places. I'm like, come on, that's not true. I mean, like, where you got to show me this? You got to send me evidence or something. 'Cause I'm all about evidence. I'm very skeptical about everything, but not with this. But it's very difficult to persuade him, and I tell him, like, you know, most people who get sucked into this stuff, they're just too far gone. Like you said, there's nothing you can do. Like, there's nothing I could say. We're not going to agree on anything. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's. I think this past year and a half, or even longer, obviously, has been real eye-opening for a lot of people in terms of where people in their life stand on various things that you perhaps didn't know they stood on. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'm glad that he's open-minded, that he's cool with me being trans and all, and like he's open-minded in all kinds of things. He used to be into hard drugs and had been in jail for some time, and we didn't talk for a while at some points. But then, you know, he's my only friend I got left, so it's frustrating.
Well, man, you know what? This is someone who obviously you don't give up on. You know what I mean? Like, this is someone.
Then they don't give up on me, really.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, keep at it, man. Sometimes, you know, you just go at these things because, how do I put it? You know, sometimes people in your life will just be shit sometimes, you know, but they are who they are. Like, you know, sometimes you can't give up your parents or your siblings, or because they are your family.
I gave up on my parents. I gave up my parents.
Well, probably because they were shitty to you for various reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of bigots, and they're off in their southern states, and I'm just not interested in talking with them anymore. So there's that. But yeah. Right. Oh yeah, and all and besides all this, all the real quick, all the leftist infighting right now is just gone crazy on online. I know most of it's online, so it's nothing to worry about too much. But I mean, that's where we all are. I mean, it's where we all gather and talk and discuss things. and now it's just like people are just not really listening to one another.
Right.
Um,
I have a question actually. Like,
sure.
when your friend who who is anti-vaxxer, they have other friends. I'm assuming. Correct.
Yeah, I think so, sort of. I mean, he's a bit lonely too, but
Does he do you come up? Are his friends anti-vaxxers?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure, like, they're all kind of like him, very like supposedly centrist about things. People like to say that they're centrist, but they're really right wing. I mean, usually it is. When you get to the core of their beliefs, it's always that.
Right.
But
I was basically just gonna. Obviously, probably from what I gather now, you probably won't be able to. It's not a question to answer, but I was just gonna basically say like, is this someone who is so hardcore anti-vaxxer that they have other anti-vaxxer friends who possibly bring you up, and they're like, oh, she's vaccinated. Um, you can't trust her. But then, from what you told me, like, it's a moot question because you don't have a sort of.
I'm not sure. I don't think they think that. But I told them like, hey, I'm vaccinated. I had both shots. Nothing really happened. I mean, I got sore, some body aches, and that's it. But no chip. I'm not magnetized. I try to send them those videos to like laugh and to make them see that these people are just they're in their own little world. You see, they're not really telling you the truth. You got to listen to science, and he's not into that. So
Right. All right.
whatever.
We can move on from the
For sure.
your buddy who's anti-vaxxer because I think But what did you want to talk? What was the thing you brought up?
The leftist infighting, it's gotten out of hand, and like I said before, I know most of it's online, so it's not too much to worry about, but that's where we all are. That's where we like to hang out and talk and watch videos and whatever. But that's where I've been most of my life, or half my life is online. And then I slowly started to find a bunch of lefties on YouTube, because a while back there was none. I was on Tumblr for a long time learning about feminism, veganism, transgender stuff, and I was learning and a lot of things. And anarchism, I love anarchism. That's what I am, and that's who I am. It doesn't mean I want everyone to be like me, but it's just it's just who I am. But it's gotten really difficult. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I try to stay out of that hole. I think it's such a waste of time in terms of really because I have my opinions obviously, and I think there's clearly people who are in the right and clearly people who are in the wrong. But
For sure.
I mean, I I just think there's no look at the big picture. I mean, I really do wonder what's going to happen to the left now that Bernie is out of the picture, in terms of like he'll never run for president again. There's not going to
No.
be a Bernie Sanders presidential campaign to once again reignite a left in this country. Like, we got lucky in 2016 and created
We really
something,
did.
and then in 2020 he was able to once again, but it's not going to happen again. And there's no one to pick up the mantle, like to pick up the torch. And you have some of those people on the left who are already attacking the people who are closest to picking up that torch, like AOC
Oh, yeah.
and the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
of the squad, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib.
Yeah,
So it's like,
they're getting a lot of hate, and it's frustrating because I'm sorry that they're not Stalin or Mao or Lenin like most of these radical lefties want them to be. And but they're on our side. I'm sorry that they're not enacting the revolution overnight. I mean, they can't. Like,
right. But what really bothers me is people who think that these are the biggest enemies to set their sights on. Like, there's a real,
for sure.
there's a real lack of, and obviously this show, it's this show does exactly that, so it might sound a little bit promotional. But I swear the reason I do the show is because of that reason, not the other way around. There's a real lack of people on the left who have a blind spot to what's going on the right. And, you know, when we talk, when we waste our time on a lot of this leftist infighting, and even thinking that, like, some of these Dems who are on our side, like AOC and squad members, are like enemy number one, public enemy number one, I should say. It's like, what are we doing? Like, what is your aim here? Like, what is your goal? To take down AOC, and then who do you have on your side to fight against the Republican Party and their followers of hardcore right wingers? I mean, what is going on?
For sure. Where's their third party hero that's super left and that's gonna win over the minds of regular working class people? Because that's the core of what Bernie did, was what he tried to do anyway, is to win over the average working class people, right and left. But of course, the people on the far left and the far right, they're never gonna change per se. But
no, the far right is much more unified. Like, they might, I'm sure I know they have their infighting and their little petty feuds.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, they're all fucking constantly promoting each other's ideas and constantly promoting each other's shows, even in segments, and getting each other on each other's shows. Where the hell is that on the left? There's almost none of it.
Sam mentioned that it's because the left is very diverse and the right is very narrow-minded and like a hive mind kind of thing. So of course they all get along to a degree.
I mean, but at the same time, though, that doesn't speak at all to the fact that you can have some people on your show to have these discussions, or I'm talking about like leftist influencers or whatever. You know what I mean? Like people on the left who have an audience and have some sort of power, at least in the activist left, on what we focus on. Like, okay, so you don't totally agree with someone, why not fucking discuss it with them? And even if even if you just get content and clicks out of it, I think some people, but I think some of your viewers would actually get something more out of it. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. But I'm definitely don't want people I do respect to have like problematic lefties on and then just arguing really and not really getting anywhere. Kind of like how I love the Surfs, but sometimes he brings on Destiny, and I'm just, I really hate Destiny.
Oh, well,
I mean, he's not lefty or anything, but
to me, Destiny,
just argue.
Well, to me, Destiny is sort of a waste of time, because who the hell is Destiny? I mean, he's not even a political streamer in the normal sense. No. I mean, it's just like I don't know what's going on here, but I'm actually talking about like I don't know, like just broadly, like I would have a discussion with some of those Tulsi Gabbard leftists. It would be to completely it would not be to find common ground. It would be to speak to their listeners and hope that I could get something out of them in terms of realizing how ridiculous some of this stuff is. But I would have this discussion with them. It would be respectful. I've had right-wingers on this show. I had one of the earliest episodes of this show, I had Caitlin Bennett, the Kent State gun girl, on this show.
Really?
Yeah, we had a debate.
Really?
Well, first of all, I had her on because she had just left Turning Point USA and wanted to talk shit about them, and I wanted some of her insider information. But then after we had
sneaky you, huh?
Yeah, right. And we had a debate after, and it was before she blew up, but it was after her diaper protest, so she wasn't a nobody. But we had a debate, and like, I was respectful because I truthfully, honestly, and I say this all the time, if you are someone who engages, I don't care who you are and how much I despise or dislike or downright hate whatever else it is about you and your ideology, but I will respect the fact that you engage. People who don't engage, I find to be the most cowardly. Like, I can't even like Steven Crowder has been avoiding a debate with Sam Cedar because his daddy wouldn't let it happen. to me, I find him more. That to me, I have zero respect for that. I find that to be
For sure.
so low, and I look at him lower than like for that reason than people who might even be further right than him who do engage, because
Yeah.
when you engage, you have an opportunity to make your case. And when you refuse to engage, you know you don't have a case to make. And when you don't have a case to make, you know that your opponent will only be able to speak to your audience and convince them otherwise. And you are in fear of that. And I think that's the most cowardly thing you can do.
Yeah, well, speaking of Crowder, he makes my blood boil. By the way, I hate him with every ounce of my body. But he's very bad faith when it comes to arguing. So it's a very interesting idea to see him and Sam debate for sure. I just would love to see him weasel out of in the middle of the debate. I feel like that's what he'll do, or he'll just talk fast and talk over Samus or whatever. But I feel like it's what he does. Same thing with Destiny. He's very bad faith. I just don't like bad faith debaters per se. I feel like also that's a waste of time for sure.
Right. I mean, listen, I actually want to do more debates on this show. I would like to go on other shows and do more debates. I think that is something that is that I've been not. I mean, I've been always open to it. I've had as many people as I could whenever it came up. If someone reached out, they've been on this show, but I need to be more.
Like, what about Nick Fuentes? I mean, I just don't see how that would. How that would be like.
I would 100% have a debate with Nick Fuentes. No question about it. That's not even.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
I have no issue whatsoever with that. I would 100% have a debate with Nick Fuentes. Because let's be honest. Like, are there? I actually did have someone reach out from someone who had some, like, their show was called like the Goyim Report, and it was clear they were like an anti-Semitic, like, right wing, like, and that I said, you want to come on this show, I will be happy to interact with you. In fact, my channel and my show is bigger than theirs. I looked at it to make sure too, and I was like, so I'd even there's no reason for me to go on your, but I'm not going on a show called the Goyim Report. I'm sorry. That is like obviously where I would, but I'm not saying I wouldn't discuss with you. You just have to come on this show. Fuentes, I mean, he's got the bigger platform, so fuck yeah, I'd go on that show. Are you kidding me? I would 100% go on Fuentes' show. If I could convince one of his viewers, not even that their worldview is wrong and they should become a leftist. I'm not
for sure.
I'm not like living in a fairy tale. I know that it takes time and that's not something that I would win over in a debate. But I'm pretty sure I could convince one of his viewers that Nick Fuentes is a bullshit artist and a grifter.
Indeed.
I mean, I did that when I debated Paul Elam of A Voice for Men, who is seen as one of the leaders of the men's rights movement. I had a debate with him back in the early days, like 2013, 2014, when I worked at the Majority Report. He invited me. It's on the Majority Report's channel. It was my first debate of that kind. You can definitely tell I was nervous in my delivery, but it was definitely like a solid debate. On my end, on his end, his version of a debate was reading from a prepared statement that he had on paper over and over again. But I did that debate with him. It was on their channel, by the way. So showing you that I'm fine with going on a channel as long as you're not fucking ridiculously named the Goyim Report or something of that that nature.
Too much, yeah.
I went on that show, and we had a debate, and I did not ever think that I was going to convince a bunch of, misogynist men's rights activists that they were wrong and to become feminists. It was never going to happen. I never even mentioned feminism in the debate, if I remember correctly, and I did that purposefully because what would be the point? That wouldn't win these guys over. I focused on showing them that someone like Paul Elam did not give two fucks about issues that would be considered issues that mainly affect men. And I brought up, like, he's going on and on about like alimony and shit like that. Who fucking cares about that?
That's their go-to argument.
Yeah. I said, who the hell cares about that? You want to talk about a real men's rights issue? How about all the men that go off to bullshit wars in this country? Because yes, there are obviously women in the military, but that is an issue that predominantly affects men. I mean, obviously, it's not even a question that more men are in the military and are sent off to war and die for bullshit wars. But you never hear your heroes and influencers and main stars in the men's rights movement focusing on shit like that. I brought up, at the time, stop and frisk was a major issue. I brought up, you guys don't ever focus on stop and frisk. They just
don't focus on people of color. They just only focus on white men,
that also,
ironically enough.
Right, but I brought up, like, stop and frisk, mainly a men's issue. It was only really men who were getting stopped and frisked on the streets for no reason. It wasn't happening to women. And, I don't think he ever had anyone come at him like that. And I also, by the way, the Elliot Rodgers thing happened during that time frame. And he had Stefan Molyneux speak at one of his men's rights conferences. And I told him that I was going to read a statement from Elliot Rodgers that sounded like it could have been from the men's rights movement. And I read it. And he said, that's abhorrent. I would never support anything like that. And then I revealed to him that I was actually reading a quote from Stefan Molyneux, who he just had as his main speaker at his conference, and I really pissed him off. He was very angry that I made him basically shout down against one of his own without realizing he was doing so. But at the end of that debate, the reason I'm bringing this up is at the end of that debate, I went on the forum that was on his website. And did I see any guys renounce their men's rights activism? No. Did I see any guys say that maybe I'm too harsh on the feminists? No. But I saw people who were longtime members of his forum, readers of his website, say, man, Paul Elam fucking blew it. He looked like a fucking idiot. Why are we supporting this guy if he couldn't even handle that? Like, he was unprepared. He looked stupid. Matt was bringing up points that, maybe I don't fully agree with, but Paul should have had some sort of retort, and he just didn't. And, that's all I set out to do, and I did it. I mean, bring on anybody. I'm ready to debate him. That's my point.
Yeah, speaking of men's rights activists, a caller called in the majority report the other day, and they had a long argument with Sam and Nomi and Emma. It was pretty good.
Oh, what was that about?
The guy was aware of the war stuff, the enlistment stuff, and but his angle was just all about medical stuff, Medicare stuff, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was all about, but it was pretty ridiculous. You got to see the clip.
I have to check it out then. All right. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure when you call. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And
you got it.
I will talk to you again soon.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Have a great night. All right. Oh, we had someone calling in before. Let me let them know that they can call back in. Hey, you can call back in. I will read some super chats while we wait to see if there's any other callers, and then I'll get to some clips. Let's see. We got that caller calling in now, so let's take it. Hello, you are on the air.
Hi, I'm Seti. Long time no talk.
Hey, I'm Seti. How are you doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. What would you like to talk about?
Sweet. So you mentioned with regard to UFOs earlier, and I sent you the cheapo super chat saying it's not entirely innocent, because and honestly with Bigfoot as well, there's some parts of the Bigfoot community which I would be extremely surprised if is not already or will not be a crossover with QAnon somehow. It just feels compatible. But like, if you want, I can give you kind of a rundown on kind of this esoteric paranormal kind of crossover.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say,
Um,
obviously, there is overlap, but it's not necessarily that. You can't be a conspiracy theorist who believes that there is a pedophile ring that Donald Trump is fighting against, and also not be insane. But you can think Bigfoot exists and not fall down into those other conspiracy
right,
theorists.
like the two. Yeah, it's like I've I personally have questions about Bigfoot, but I'm also in the process of detoxifying my brain. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm a recovering right winger, so
Oh,
But
maybe we should talk a little bit more like that about that though. That seems more interesting to me, honestly. But go ahead with the conspiracy
yeah,
theory.
okay. So basically, there's this interesting thing. A lot of the so especially when you get into DMT, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. It's like what's in ayahuasca, um, and other. It's kind of like a up and coming thing. Joe Rogan did some stuff about it, I think. Um, no, not I mixed up words there.
No, don't worry. Just keep.
Ayahuasca. That
Okay.
it's the active ingredient in that, and you've probably heard about some people doing that in the Amazon. Anyway, so there's an interesting movement of certain people, and I have one specific example later who I think you could probably do a whole episode on, who like do this, and basically either you fall down the rabbit hole of like these psychedelics and believing in them, or there are certain people who like swing super hard right to like conservative Christianity after doing these things, and basically they're like the astral beings I met on my trips are demons. There are also aliens who are demons, and this is also something I heard growing up in like the evangelical church. Aliens are actually just demons, and there's a really interesting case for this. There's an author called Jacques Vallée, Jacques Vallée, who's very famous in like paranormal circles, and his work is honestly very interesting. But he makes a lot of parallels about how like the folklore about demons and fairies and aliens are all like really similar to each other, and that's really interesting stuff. And it's uncomfortable bedfellows kind of with a much less interesting Christian idea that all aliens are basically just demons, and it's just demons pretending to be aliens so that they can influence the world a little bit better, drive us away from the light of God and all that stuff. But yeah, it is this really interesting kind of hard swing to conservative Christianity, and especially also like Orthodox, like Eastern Orthodox
Hmm.
Christianity. And Eastern Orthodox is popping up a lot more in like far right circles. I know a
Right.
lot of people who went into that sort of thing, and there's a lot of things you could talk about, like the whole obsession with like the world was better as it used to be, bring back the glory days. The whole the Catholic Church has been pretty well disenfranchised in a lot of circles, and so you have a lot of people who abandon that, and then okay, so but you don't want the dirty prots, the Protestants. So it's like, oh well, the Orthodox Church has been doing their thing for the last 2,000 years, well, 1,500 years or so, unchanged. It's pretty cool, return to tradition spelled with V's instead of U's and all that stuff, and that also crosses over with like the pan-Slavism and like low-key very right-wing leaning of a lot of people in Slavic, Eastern European, Second World, Eastern Bloc countries, and I've seen a lot of them being influential in some of the at least on social media in terms of introducing this stuff to American right wingers. And I'm not like full on Russian conspiracy, but it's an interesting link.
Right. Right. It sounds not exactly obviously, but it sounds a little bit like the people who are at least in terms of like wanting to go back to a different time and a different period. The people who are the conspiracy theorists who are fighting against the Great Reset, who don't want anything changed who think, the New World Order is trying to change everything and take advantage of COVID by completely creating a new world. And they don't want that. They want everything back to how it was because everything was so perfect and great before COVID.
Yeah. Nuts.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's interesting.
That's definitely
Sorry.
something to look more into, though. I should definitely even consider a whole episode about that whole scene.
Yeah, the Orthodox connection is definitely something you could dig into. Anyway, so this is one particularly interesting dude with regard to this whole psychedelic conspiracy theorist to Orthodox Christianity, or I'm not sure if he is Orthodox, but at least to like very hardline Christianity, is a dude called Owen Cyclops. And you can find his Twitter, at least as a starting point, and he links all over the place. But it's Owen Broadcast, OWEN Broadcast. And he is he first popped up in about 2019, the beginning of it. And he has two interesting threads. And it basically tells about his experiences with psychedelics and psychotropics and how they affected his conversion to Christianity. I saw this stuff pop up at about the same time, and it really did gain some traction with the circles that I was a part of at that point, which I would kind of classify as like groypers. Are you familiar with Bronze Age pervert at all?
The name sounds very familiar, actually. I probably have.
Yeah, he's not banned by Twitter somehow, but yeah, he's kind of definitely at the center at a lot of this. I could only call it groyper. It's weird, but anyway, yeah, he's another very big right-wing figure that kind of flies under the radar. But yeah, so it cross-pollinates, and so you have this whole hardline Christian thing with psychedelics. Basically, it's so strange because psychedelics open your mind, and so you're more influenced by demons, and it's just Lucifer at the gates. And then you have UFOs, which are also all demons, and there are people who are just like straight up, like, okay, fairies in the woods, they're demons too. Bigfoot, demon as well. Everybody, everything existed to lead you away from Christ, and yeah, I mean,
Right.
and a lot of people don't believe that. Certainly, so in the Bigfoot community, a lot of people start out with like thinking Bigfoot's just another cryptid, an animal living in the woods. And then there's the woo factor, which is like the paranormal stuff. And a huge amount of Bigfoot reports have this paranormal stuff, and it's often not even included in them. So there's like this kind of like in-joke that as you spend more time in the Bigfoot community, you're going to become more and more mystical because there's just so much of this unexplained stuff. And in a lot of ways as well, you start out as a nuts and bolts cultist about UFOs, and that's a specific term, nuts and bolts cultist. I think John Keel coined that. You believe, it's a physical spaceship from another world, but so much of it doesn't line up. And then you keep looking at it, and you're like, okay, these clearly have to be like some kind of interdimensional, which is basically just science speak for, you could easily say ghosts are interdimensional, or spirits or demons. And so there is this like interesting trend, and not even in terms of the like the political leanings of those circles, but in just terms of the evidence and the reports you see that kind of pull you toward the very mystical side of things. And unfortunately, as you get into these things from the nuts and bolts cultist or the ape in the woods, which is another specific phrase, you start at those points with the monkey and the nuts and the bolts. You get more and more into the mystical stuff, and then there are definitely like riptide currents, which you can be swimming in that, not feel it, and then if you cross under the riptide, you can just get straight sucked out into this whole weird land of it's all demons, turtles all the way down.
Right. Can you actually still message me, send this via email or on Twitter, all of this that you were going to send me?
Yeah, I'll send you the two threads. I think that'll get you started on Own Cyclops.
Okay, because I want to look more into this. I want to possibly do an episode on it. I feel like
definitely worth it.
I feel like this is so deep right now, though, that I don't have the wherewithal to internalize all this.
At
11:30 my time.
I mean, I'm trying to remember this, and I'm shit. This goes a lot deeper than I remember.
Right.
Yeah, this is like, I don't think I'm not really sure there's a discussion that can be had here, but I'm just letting you know, like I told you with the super chat. But yeah, I'll send you the stuff, and I do genuinely think that you could do a deep dive on this, because it's a rabbit hole. All right. Whew.
Thanks, Imseti. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Let me let this. We had another caller. Let me let them know that they can call in. I'll read a super chat while we wait. Renee says, make Grimlock, Renee and Abby mods. I will make you guys mods if you want to be mods. Sure. You guys are longtime listeners. So sure, I will. We lost a few of the, I know Zoe's a mod, and I forgot who else is a mod. But someone, what's her name, was a mod, and I haven't seen her around lately. Maybe this schedule isn't fit for her anymore, but I'll find out. But yeah, I'll make you guys mods. We got the caller now. Here's another caller. Let me just make sure that I'm
Hey,
there.
hold on. Let me turn off my there we go.
There we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah. So Amelie. I live in Tennessee. I'm a trans woman. So anyway, can you hear me all right?
You sound great. What was it to talk about?
Yeah, so I was listening to your show from last week while I was the one on the conference while I was like Uber driving and whatnot, and I had a few thoughts about like how maybe we should reframe our understanding of QAnon in a way that I think makes sense of a lot of what you guys were talking about.
Sure.
So
let's hear it.
So I've been saying for a while, especially like when I heard you talking, I think this was on MR a while back, about how QAnon was able to sort of like synthesize a lot of different sort of conspiracy theories and became kind of a melting pot in a way.
Right.
And I think it's probably better to try and understand QAnon not as a theory so much, but the way I've been putting it is to understand it as an epistemology instead, a way of acquiring knowledge. And so like one example would be with them. Okay, if you just had a straightforward theory, then you would want publicity in a sort of like pretty standard, through standard methods. Okay, we'll have the journalists, they'll come in and we'll broadcast. But instead, they just wanted like raw data going out into the world, and they didn't want to incorporate sort of like standard journalists. And I think that this is partly because there's a term that's used sometimes, knowledge community, that it's like, QAnon essentially functions as a way for people to come together and sort of like build what they see as knowledge about the world. And so what's happening there is they don't see journalists as part of their knowledge community, but they see lots of people who weren't at the conference as a part of their knowledge community. And so it's important to them that they get as much information out, but not through channels that aren't a part of their group. So like, on some level, I think this helps make sense, not only of the sort of millenarianism that they seem to have, where, they're, when such and such a prediction fails to come to pass, they sort of reincorporate this new information into the overall theory, because again, there's not really a thing to falsify. It's a framework for understanding knowledge, a sort of conspiratorial way to approach politics as such. And I think there's not really ultimately a core set of beliefs at the bottom of all of this. I think it's just an approach to politics, if that makes sense.
Right. That's very interesting. It sort of sounds, and again, this also makes a lot of sense. It's not exactly analogous, but it certainly takes a lot of aspects of organized religion, it sounds like.
Well, I would say yes and no, because like there's it depends what you mean by organized religion. So so one of the things that sometimes I have a background in history, and so like one of the things that's sort of talked about in sort of religious history is that before, say, back in like, I don't know, the 15th century or something like that, the question of unbelief isn't really operative. And so I think, you'll have like, varying degrees of, Gnosticism, or varying degrees of, you know, belief of how much God intervenes in one place or another. But the function of God is not so much like a thing that people have knowledge of, but the thing that allows them to have knowledge back then. But there is a bit of a shift with this sort of like scientific revolution, that you start getting a different approach to religion, where it stops being about like faith and you start getting a lot more sort of like straightforward attempts to like argue for religion on science's terms on some level. And there's a degree that fundamentalism is kind of like that. So, the way that, an example being, fundamentalism of all sorts is really like at bottom a very Protestant idea. Now, you can have fundamentalisms of many different types, but at base, like, fundamentalism is the belief that you can read religious texts literally, and that doesn't really make sense before the Protestant Reformation within like a Christian standpoint, because if you can read a text literally, you don't need a specialized class of interpreters of the Bible. Right. Back then you've got a very different sort of like knowledge community. But like Protestantism is oftentimes for people in terms of their sort of like interpretation of God and interpretation of the text, a fairly individualistic business. You can interpret the Bible yourself. That's why Luther translated the Bible into German. That's why you have it translated into, various languages other than various vernacular languages, rather than just leaving it in Latin. Sorry, I'm autistic. I sometimes just kind of like talk without thinking, so you can interrupt me.
No. I'm definitely taking in everything you're saying. I think that is a very accurate way of describing a lot of aspects of QAnon. I think it definitely is a framework for a lot of these people to understand what's going on, and also a framework for basically how they interpret everything that they come across. I definitely think that's true. I would say there's definitely aspects of where there are sizable portions where they are sort of would still be accurate, but not. But also accurate would be the idea that there are these sort of core beliefs that a lot of them have. Like, I would say most of them do have some certain core beliefs that still make your I think your analysis correct, but I also think it makes it so that obviously that's not just the core of how they view QAnon. But yeah, I think that's what's that?
Can I give sort of an analogy?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So an example, like, you can call certain things beliefs, but like how they sort of function within a larger sort of knowledge framework, there's sort of like different functions that different types of beliefs. I'm a little uncomfortable using the word belief. I prefer like using words like conviction, that there's certain things that people hold regardless of evidence, because it's what helps them make sense of the evidence. So an example in science is that at base, there's a presupposition or a conviction that the future will be like the past. But like, we only have that notion because at every point in the past, the future of that time turned out to be like its past. There's no like basis in experience that will make this a certainty that the world actually operates according to consistent laws from one time to another. This is just how, the assumption that things operate according to causes and that things operate according to laws. These are things that we assume rather than things that we draw experience from the world. They're what help us make sense of science. So like, these kinds of sort of like knowledge communities are often structured by these sorts of sort of like, you can call them core beliefs, but I would say like, convictions might be a better word, because I think belief is something that ultimately you can either affirm or deny, but conviction, it's kind of hard to actually shake somebody's convictions. Like what I'm meaning when I say that QAnon doesn't really have core beliefs, I don't think there's many straightforward beliefs that somebody in QAnon holds that could not be displaced in order to make the overall theory continue to operate. Whereas like there are maybe broader assumptions like about the nature of political power that are going to be pretty steadfast because they're unfalsifiable in one way or another. So you can't prove to somebody that there is not some kind of cabal of elites in the background running things, but you could maybe prove or disprove that Tom Hanks is part of it. You know, so like a concrete like claim about like Tom Hanks and whether or not he is like, a blood-sucking baby eater, like that is like something that is in principle falsifiable. But that there are these people who are like, I'm saying like you could in theory like just monitor, Tom Hanks for the next, until he dies.
Could you?
And if you don't
could you really? I mean,
could more or less suggest that that's not true. But the belief that political power operates in the shadows through these sorts of like extremely powerful people, and that all you need, another belief that you need a strong man to unseat these kinds of conspiracies. Like these are things that people assume. They're not like provable or disprovable, but that Donald Trump is the actual person who's going to be that strong man who unseats them. That's, I think, more contingent. That's one of the reasons why, like immediately after the inauguration, you started getting like people trying to make like Biden a part of it. My understanding is that hasn't become a sort of core QAnon belief, so to speak, that Biden is in on like Trump's side, but like you saw people trying to sort of shift the narrative so that like it's okay that Trump's not in power and that Trump can't be the strong man right now. Now I think most of them are just like trying to imagine ways for Trump to get back in power. But the assumption at base is that some kind of authoritarian needs to unseat the secret cabal. Like these are assumptions about how political power works. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I don't know if I would. I think you have your analysis is correct, but in a lot of ways, I just don't know. If, I'm trying to make sense, I guess, of the belief conviction type of discussion we're having right now. Like for example, I mean, they're not looking beyond Trump really. Trump is the hero in this. He is the almighty who is taking down the cabal, who's fighting the deep state, it's all part of the plan. Everything going on is all part of the plan. There are less, I guess I could use one of your phrases. There are people with less conviction who do question if he is still in control, or if they have to fight to get him back into control. But it is still all revolves around Trump. Like there is no QAnon without Trump right now, at the very least. I don't know if that will change in the future, but still to this day, QAnon is not a movement that doesn't revolve around Donald Trump.
Yes. I agree that right now it's pretty unshakable that Trump is at the center of things. Like he pretty solidly ended up, like as a concept, Trump sort of reasserted himself at the center of their sort of like politics. I think it's telling that there was some group of them that were entertaining other concepts. So like my main thing is that they always outlive Trump.
What was that?
Like 100%. I think that QAnon is going to outlive Trump. Basically, is what I'm saying. That I think that Trump is like in their minds the best vehicle and like 100% who they think is going to do it right now. But if Trump dies, you're either going to get like, in 50 years, after Trump dies, either they're going to be having like the same sort of like theories of Trump that they have about Elvis, or they're going to like pick somebody new.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but
at base, the important thing is that they have an authoritarian to have faith in.
I hate to tell you this, but
the assumption might be a better one.
I hate to tell you this, but the former is much more likely to happen than the latter. I really do imagine they would not believe Trump died. Or they would believe that they would need to put their hope in Don Jr., who's covering for his dad while he's on a secret mission. But Trump will not. Yeah. Trump will not die to QAnon. I can almost guarantee that. Maybe maybe I'll eat these words and people could go back and clip this and make fun of me down the line. But I feel extremely confident, and I don't really like to speculate about what could possibly happen in the future that isn't like concrete. Like, I can see a reactionary group becoming really big. I have a good track record there, but that's because I can see what they're doing now and know sort of how this is going to unfold. This is a little bit different, but I feel pretty damn confident in saying that what is most likely to happen is that in their mind, Donald Trump is not really dead. It is literally all part of the plan. He needs to do whatever. He needs to fake his death. He needs to just disappear for a little bit because the next part of the plan is in motion, and he needs to go underground, or he needs to go to another country in disguise. Something, they'll come up with it, but there will never be a great QAnon mourning for the death of Donald Trump. I could almost guarantee it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and perhaps like picking at this, like who the authoritarian is maybe not like the most productive place for me to be pointing at. I think the Tom Hanks example is probably a little bit better.
Yes, yeah.
I think that like for people in QAnon, like Trump the person, like the human being, is kind of less important than Trump the idea.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's more than just like the sum of his body parts, so to speak.
In some ways, I don't discount how much they love him. Really, they love him, the person, as well. It is a weird dynamic where it's not just a idea; it is the man himself. It is a bizarre thing. I don't think it's, it is very. It's a lot like a cult. I mean,
well, a cult of personality, yeah.
Trump's, but they love both the idea and the man or himself usually. Like it's not just a thing where it's like, like Jonestown or Manson. Like they really did not just believe in whatever each bigger picture was. They also really believed in the individual themselves.
Yeah. I will say, by the way, like to be very clear on the like issue of whether or not
sorry to interrupt, but that is sort of like, I guess, where it does differ from religion. Like in religion, it is it's the belief in in God and everything you learn and the teachings and but like and obviously in Catholicism, for example, we Catholics do look at the Pope as the leader in the physical sense, but they're not really, I would say most of them are not at least following the Pope, the man. Do you know what I mean? Or
Christ, yes. So like, at some point, like Jesus stopped really being a person to a lot of people. Like they will refer to him as a person. I mean, heck, there is the line that, God has three personas. And they are the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, that kind of thing. Like, right. They'll use the word person, but like for them, it's not like they have a super concrete idea of Jesus. Like I'm sure that there's some people who have like, had, I don't want to dismissively call it hallucinations, but maybe I should, I don't know. I'm sure there's some people who feel like they've met Jesus Christ in the flesh, but I think for the vast majority of Christians, he's a martyr or a symbol more than anything. And like, at some point, like, I think, okay, you remember that thing where you have some people who are like, oh, okay, yeah, probably Trump did participate in some of these like pedophile rings, but he had his reasons. He was just trying to like, get in with the right people. And this is how they explain away like his relationship to Epstein and whatnot. And I think that's a little bit because like the actual biographical facts of Trump's life are going to be kind of unimportant to people in the long run. What's going to be more important is the prophecy of Trump. Now, like I will say, like when I was saying yes and no to whether or not QAnon is something like religious on some level, I was saying yes or no in two ways. I don't actually think the connection to fundamentalism is one to one, but I do think there is a sort of like communal religious attitude that it does bear a lot of similarity to, but like that's because it bears similarity to knowledge communities in general.
Right.
That was why I was also drawing a comparison to like science, but
Right.
like, certainly there's religious people in there, but I think that like when they join like QAnon, I think like for a lot of them, it's about joining a community, and it's about having people that you trust.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I think it's really hard to actually like argue with somebody about the facts when they have like, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of conspiracy theories are ultimately like this on some sort of like level, but like I think QAnon is going to be really hard to shake people out of compared to others, just because of its sort of communal quality.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. I think I've even said myself on this show that like you will have an easier time convincing people who are in white supremacist groups to leave white supremacy than you will have getting people out of QAnon. Like there is little to no hope for some of these, for the vast majority of these people in QAnon.
I think there's a connection to the white supremacy comparison too, though. Like
I look at it like this: when it comes to white supremacy, people who are in like white supremacists who are in neo-Nazi groups or whatever, you can still deal in reality with them, like the things that they believe in and hate, their enemies, they are real. Like you can sit down with them and have them meet a black person and you can show them that their worldview is wrong, like with material, real things, whether it's people or institutions or societal, cultural, whatever it may be. QAnon.
I'm not thinking about a more specific thing when I say white supremacy, then, because I'm not just talking about like somebody who thinks that black people are bad and like that that white people are just inherently better and they ought to be in control. Like when I'm thinking of like a white supremacist, maybe I'm specifically thinking of like white supremacy embedded in the conspiracy theory about like the Jews using the blacks to undermine white masculinity and like poison the white gene pool or something like that. Like that's a broader sort of like framework for understanding political struggle as well. But like if we're just talking about somebody who has deep-seated prejudice against like black people because like they think their IQ is lower in one way or another, like that's I think that's easier to shake.
Well, that's the thing. I think that is more in line with like the Ku Klux Klan and like Nazi skinhead groups and things like that. Like that is what you're talking about is actually more in the conspiratorial world of what would be QAnon. Like those guys don't really usually meddle that much in that sort of. I'm sure some of them believe it, obviously, but I'm not talking about the true believers. I'm talking about the vast majority of people who get sucked into this stuff, who just, life sucks and they need a scapegoat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's obviously you'll never really save a. You never get a true believer out of it. They have too much to gain from it. They're usually grifting or have some sort of power in that. But when I talk about getting people out of the rabbit hole, I am talking about people who passively fell into it because of extraneous circumstances. But that's for both. I mean, I don't care about whoever's behind Ghost Ezra in terms of saving him or her or them. I don't care about Jordan Sather or fuck them. They don't. I'm not.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like when I would talk about like I don't care about Milo Yiannopoulos or those guys or the organizers of Unite the Right or any of that, like the Nick Fuentes. What I'm talking about is always the people who bought into their bullshit, whoever bullshit they've bought into.
Yeah, I mean, like on some level, I think worrying about like the immortal soul of like Milo Yiannopoulos is more than a lost cause. Whereas, like, I think they have what they need from this movement already. Like on some level, they needed sort of like people to follow them. They needed a sense of like power. They needed more money in probably Milo's case. But like somebody else who sort of like fell for it, so to speak, probably instead was looking for something like community or like a sense of understanding of the world. And like, I think that the best way to actually like shake somebody from a knowledge community is to make them feel a sense of community in other places.
Right.
Like then they just start spending time and re-socializing themselves in other spaces, whereas lately they've just been kind of socializing themselves into like a QAnon sort of mindset. And like I don't think there's a direct attack is what I'm saying. I think these people need to just know that there's people in their lives that they can build community with regardless of the conspiracy theory. I mean, like, I don't know if it's like a tenant union or like, or a straightforward like labor union or what have you, but like, I think, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit too communitarian in my sensibility.
I really think you're right, especially when you're dealing with people who are searching for that and find it in bad places. Right. I mean, it is obvious that that's what's missing. And that's one of the less failures. I mean, Michael Brooks would talk about that a lot. That's where he was headed in a lot of, I feel like he would talk about it a lot, but he also was looking to even like really hone in on that idea more so than he already was. And I think that is a major thing what we lack. And it also goes into what we were talking about before with another caller, about the infighting on the left. Like it's just it's all just a major failure on the part of a lot of different groups and organizations and ideological comrades, you can say. But yeah, I really.
Well, that's really the danger that like Ben Burgess is getting at. Like, I haven't read his book, but like the sort of like canceling comedians thing. Like, part of the problem that like he's sort of pointing at, like regardless of like whether or not somebody says something problematic in one way or another, like an overly carceral attitude towards building community is really going to undermine the ability to welcome new people in. Like, especially if you're like operating with a certain set of purity, how are you supposed to incorporate in people who have been lost for a while and maybe drifted towards right politics? Like, I think it's important that we have sort of more restorative notions of community building and justice and things like that.
Right.
For that,
I haven't read his book, honestly, and I don't know what he argues in it. I also tend to think people who are willing to cast aside the important things because of stupid shit like a comedian getting quote unquote canceled is also not worth our time. I mean, I think the outrage over wokeism is utterly absurd. I think, I mean, I say it all the time. I find a lot of it to be cringe, as people like to say. Myself, I find a lot of it to be corny in terms of like my personal taste. Like, but I respect other people, and if that's what matters to them, I mean, I have my own opinion. I'm not scared of if I share my opinion all the time, and if people disagree, they could cancel me all they like. I don't got anything to. Well, what is someone online canceling you for? Like, if you're a comedian, that's literally your job. No one in like in the comedy world is going to cancel you from that industry because you did like a joke that was a little un-PC. Like, the only way that's happening is if you are actually actively racist, and then when it comes to that, like I don't give a shit. Like, yeah, well, who cares? You know, like
I mean, like a comedian, like I can't think of any like actual comedians that have been straightforwardly canceled. Like, when I'm thinking like, cancellation, I'm thinking more of like people like, I don't know, Natalie Wynn or like, Lindsay Ellis. People who like,
none of those people have been canceled though. I can tell you right now, if they were,
they were mobbed by like, by like abusive criticism online that affected their mental health in pretty profound ways. Regardless of what we call that, like, this sort of like individualistic moralism does like hurt people. And I think that's the main thing, is like we need to be mindful of like how our sort of mob shaming of people does hurt them sometimes. Like, it's particularly the most like marginal among us.
Why did people go after you could pick either one of them? Why did people go after them again? I don't remember the details.
So Natalie Wynn did not did not know the reputation of a specific like trans man porn star for not having great attitudes towards having bad attitudes towards non-binary people, and basically asked him to record a quote from like a book for one of her videos, and they saw her as this platforming this person. Buck Angel is the name of the porn star, um, and like ultimately that was a bit of just like the last like straw for some people. Like there had been people getting like irritated at like small things that like that Nat would say for ages, just because like Nat uses Twitter, and Nat is kind of has an unhealthy relationship with Twitter, to be entirely honest. Lindsay Ellis, on the other hand, people interpreted something she said about comparing that like new Raya and the Last Dragon movie to Avatar: The Last Airbender as saying all property or all movies or shows or whatever based on like Asian mythology are the same. They were accusing her of saying that when she was talking about like something more sort of like high level, like on the level of like tropes. Like she was observing that there was a character similar to like Prince Zuko and Raya or something like that. Like it's really stupid stuff ultimately, but ultimately it becomes an excuse to bring up like 10 years worth of transgressions, so to
Right. That
speak,
just
like
sounds
things
like
that people said.
that just sounds like
But
online bullying to me, though. That's not really what
yes,
I think of when I think of like cancel culture.
I think that like cancel culture is multiple things at the same time. Like there. I mean, there's like the stupid way that people on the right use it, which is just anything they don't like. There's the way that like comedians use it, which seems to be just like people criticizing jokes that they don't like, which is kind of silly, and I'm not really concerned with that because if they're failing to make people laugh, they're not doing the job well. Telling a risque joke is like getting up on the wire to when you're in a circus act, without a net. Like that's the equivalent of that. And if you fail and you fall on your face, well, maybe you shouldn't have made a joke about a difficult subject. Like that I just see that as kind of part of the business as far as comedians go.
Right,
But
right,
like
right. But
as far as
I just don't think that's. I know you argue that that's like it's a form of cancel culture, but I don't really. It's just I don't think
well,
we could claim
there,
that every time someone bullies someone online. Like it sounds like
no,
um
not any time somebody bullies somebody, but anytime there's a mass bullying of a specific person, like
that's
Twitter.
just dogpiling though. Like I'm not. It sounds like
That's
both.
the point.
I just want to be clear. It sounds like both Natalie and Lindsay were had a horrible experience that they did not deserve and were completely. I don't, as you can tell, I don't usually pay attention to this type of stuff, but
That's cool.
it sounds like they obviously no one deserves any of this type of stuff, but it sounds like they were in the right too. Like it's not like they were wrong and the criticism got too much. Like it sounds like they were just doing their thing and people decided to attack them. But that's not really what I consider to be cancel culture, to be quite honest. I mean, cancel culture to me is when a someone it basically is not politically correct in a way, I guess, and people decide to criticize them about that, and sometimes I guess people decide to take the extra step and try to call their whoever like a boss or get their career affected, and like I mean a lot of it's sort of just like you know I don't know, not really.
It's broad getting somebody fired. I'm just appealing to how people use the term. Like people describe all of these things as like canceling. So like that's why I say it's multiple things. Like there's a difference now between like how people are using the word now, and I'm not including like Republicans who can include potato head in this. Like there's a difference between like cancel Colbert however long ago, where they're actually like specifically trying to get a certain show canceled, and like a certain amount of just like, because people who will talk about like participating in this kind of thing, they will call it cancel culture. They will say, look, this is a way of keeping people accountable by criticizing them, in one way or another. And, no particular person participating in it like knows what it feels like to be on the other side, because they're shooting one message and then that's it for them. But like, if you're on the other side of like hundreds of these, that's like, I know that this can also be called online bullying just broadly, or dogpiling just broadly, but this is one of the ways that people use the term cancel culture. So, and
Right,
I
right.
know,
I know
like,
what you're
when
saying.
Ben,
Like, it's just, even if it's not completely accurate in terms of how it is what it's called. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't think, again, I don't want to harp on this, but that's not what I think of when I think of cancel culture. I mean, I think obviously it's wrong how they were treated, but
yeah,
in the chat I see someone, James says, ask Norm Finkelstein about cancel culture. Right, someone who, a Jewish intellectual who has gone on for the rights of the Palestinian people and criticized Israel, made it his life's work, and he has lost jobs, lost teaching positions, lost
mhm,
speaking engagements, has been harassed in person at events that did allow him to be, and I think, listen, I also think people, people, if you put yourself out there, you invite critique. And
yes,
a lot of times, if you are very popular, all these people critiquing at you could feel like, and I've been, I'm not even as popular or known as any of the people you just mentioned, but there's been times where the right has dogpiled me, and it's like, damn, it's like, you feel all this coming at you, and it's like, this is well, for me, I usually revel in it, so I'm sure I would love it no matter where it came from. But but I'm even like, sometimes I'm like, damn, this is a lot of people sharing their criticism. I wonder if some of them even realize that they're one of a million doing this, or if they think they're like a unique voice that I'm going to see. Like, sometimes the replies are so much, I doubt I'm even seeing most of them, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, like, I'm not sure there's like really like easy way to deal with the issue of dogpiling, but like it's more a matter of um, this, I think, unpacks out of sort of a punitive attitude towards morality and a punitive attitude towards like how we deal with transgressions, and that also stems from a sort of like individualistic conception of morality, that like, okay, we judge the individual rather than trying to sort of like figure out how to make our communities integrate itself more. And I think like there's even if I like separate it from like, specific instances that people refer to as cancel culture, and I'm just talking about like online harassment and bullying, and like, straightforward like criticism that also oftentimes occurs at the same time, like, that's just not the most effective method of actually like criticizing somebody and actually getting through to them. I mean, I think most of this is like a technology problem, and that like
Yeah.
Twitter, like, for example, incentivizes this kind of like one-off, oh, I'm just going to criticize them and get out of there
Oh,
type
I
attitude.
I definitely think there is an issue where just a normal person is caught on video doing something, and then all of a sudden people treat them as if they are some sort of public figure who deserves their phone number and their email and everything being dogpiled on, and people calling their. I
Yeah,
mean, in some instances, I understand it. Honestly, I don't take part in that stuff. I don't do that. But in some instances where there's some sort of really over the top, overt racism, I get it, and I'm definitely not going to defend the individual there. But there are definitely ones where it's like, really, we're going to make an issue out of this one. Like, if this wasn't caught on camera and blasted on social media, no one would even. This would just be like a personal dispute between two people. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, there
yeah,
are ones where, it does come to the, it does raise to another level, but there's also ones where it's like, this is just ridiculous. And I get that. I totally get that. But, when we're talking about, just because you brought up the Ben Burgess book, and again, I haven't read it. I
yeah,
cannot say that's
I,
what it's inside of it. I'm just going by what your quick summary was based on what you told me. Comedians, I don't give a fuck.
yeah,
It's your career. If you lose jobs because of your comedy getting canceled because people critique it, it means you did not do your job. I'm someone who believes that anything could be funny. Even the most politically incorrect thing, I will laugh at if it's funny. And honestly, that involves a lot of the times making sure that politically incorrect thing is sending across the right message or hitting the right person. I think there is nothing you can't joke about. Problem is, a lot of comedians say that and then think that the funny part is fucking like making fun of the punching down or the minority group that they're using the racial term for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's what I think is there, and fuck them to me. You know, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's
I
your
used to say it is because like I'm from a mixed race family, and one of the things that like my dad and I used to talk about, because my dad would make jokes about like my dad's black. My dad would make jokes about like racial stereotypes about black people all the time, and one of the things that like I started sort of like conceptualizing as is that a white racist makes a joke about an angry black man because he's scared of angry black men or scared of black men in general, but like a black man might make the exact same joke, but it's because they're scared of racists.
Right.
That it's a way of sort of like processing these sorts of like difficult materials oftentimes.
right.
And
Like,
like,
listen.
yeah.
I wouldn't do this myself because I don't have the confidence that I'd be able to do this and actually be funny. But if you are a comedian who feels like you have a joke that requires the use of a racial slur, but you're hitting the right person and it's an actually funny, poignant, well thought out with the like super on point correct message, then fucking go for it. I don't have a problem with that. But that's usually not the case, right? I mean,
And
we
it takes
know,
talent. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, like I'm not really worried about the comedian issue, and oftentimes I'm not really worried about somebody who's being criticized for something said in the present so much. Oftentimes, it's really the digging up people's like past transgressions that tends to irritate me the most, because if we're gonna actually like create a welcoming environment for people who've changed, we need to actually like allow for people to change. It's like, I hate Hillary Clinton for many, many reasons, but like I wasn't gonna sit around like still criticizing her for not supporting gay marriage after she started supporting gay marriage. Like she took way too long. But like if we don't actually like accept people when they come around to a position that we want, what incentive is there for them to change? You know. So
Yeah, I agree to a point. Yeah, but I think at this point I'm gonna have to
yeah,
you're gonna have to
I need to
call back
go
in.
explore,
Yeah,
actually.
I just want to show everybody that but all these calls today were really long, and that's because I love having conversation. And anyone can call into the show, and we will go for as long as I don't want to say as long as we can, but as long as I can physically go without feeling like I'm going to. I really need to figure out the scheduling because at this point it's. I think the marathon Thursdays are getting to me. But thank you so much for calling in. Feel free to call in anytime.
Oh, and by the way, thanks for telling the Majority Report however long ago that they left the calls on, because I didn't know what to do. I'm sorry, I was the
Oh,
person who
you're the
met.
one who told us about that. Okay, yeah. Thank you. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who told them to shut them off because of you, but they did have it off by the time they confirmed to me that they got my message. So it's still a mystery, but I'm pretty sure that it was because of your heads up.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm just glad. Thank you for helping, because I didn't know what else to do. Anyway, that's all. I'll talk to you later, and thanks for taking my call. I need to go take estrogen now.
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for the calls. I'm going to read the super chats. I'm going to hit two, maybe one, but maybe two short clips. Again, done with calls. I'm no longer taking calls for tonight just because I would not be able to give you my full attention. Or I guess, oh boy, I'm feeling it now. But I want to do these clips. So let me read this. Let me get the super chats out of the way. I will read any super chat that comes in, obviously. I'm sorry, Renee. I really can't, buddy. You get on every episode, so I don't feel bad shutting you down today. But I'm sorry, buddy. I know you were trying to call in, but I got to call. That's it. That's a wrap for the calls. Jay Creates with a super chat. I nominate Orb Rumor as mod. Orb Rumor? I don't even think is Orb Rumor here? Von Tux with a super chat. Violence in August or violence for the midterms? What we looking at from these weirdos, you think? I don't know. I can't listen. Like I said, I can tell you where I think things are going in a broader sense, that it's going to be something to pay attention to, something big, but I can't give you a specific, I can't speculate on something so specific. I do think that the August thing is mostly just coming from people like Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. From what I see, that is not a super hardcore QAnon belief that Trump is coming back into power in August. The midterms, again, depend on how much Trump involves himself. I will tell you this. We are up to something like 30-something QAnon believers running for Congress. Running for office, I should say. We are going to be dealing with this for a while. Samantha with a super chat. Trump pushing for August military coup. Concerned or no? Oh, okay. Just answered that before. I don't think we're going to see anything in August. Well, I don't want to say I don't think we're going to see anything in August. I want to tell you that the August thing, again, is not something that is super QAnon canon to the point where they are plotting something. Is there possible that some of them believe that and some of them will want to do something? Yes, of course. But there's not some sort of big belief that they need to do something for Trump to get back in August. Renee Strasser Carlson is contradicting Alex Jones. Renee also says, imagine if Rosa Luxemburg saw what passes for the left in the U.S. today. Well, Prairie with a super chat says, I enjoyed your Armageddon movie review on MR today. Right, thank you. I basically told everyone the entirety of Armageddon today on the Majority Report. Hope I didn't spoil it for too many of you. All right, let's go quickly to two clips I wanted to play for you guys. So, where is this? Okay, let me... Okay, so... So you guys might have seen this hit Twitter where, over the past couple of days, where Project Veritas, James O'Keefe's undercover gonzo journalism organization, a.k.a. James O'Keefe dressing up in an Osama bin Laden mask and crossing a river on the border and being shocked that no one is stopping a terrorist from crossing, even though obviously any border patrol would see a guy in just a mask who was already on the U.S. side of the border just cross back and forth and be like, what the fuck is this? Who is, and all the cameras too, like, why would I get involved with some sort of indie film bullshit? But anyway, gonzo journalist, very serious. James O'Keefe basically got a scoop that was going to destroy Fox News. And don't take my word for it or James O'Keefe's word for it. Take the word of, let me pull this person up here. Take the word of... Let me just grab the clip here of Ivory Hecker, a weather person for local Fox affiliate Fox 26. Let's take a listen to this clip where she stops the report she's supposed to do live on local television to break this bombshell story she has coming up. Let's listen right now.
Across the region. Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker is live in Montgomery County to take a look at that aspect.
Thanks, guys. That's right. Before we get to that story, I want to let you, the viewers, know that Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers. And from what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this. I am going to be releasing some recordings about what goes on behind the scenes at Fox because it applies to you, the viewers. I found a nonprofit journalism group called Project Veritas. It's going to help put that out tomorrow, so tune into them. But as for this heat wave across Texas, you can see what it's doing to AC units. This one broken down as we...
I love how she jumps right into the report after as if it's no big deal what she just did. But she got fired from her job for doing that because, of course, you can't break the script or the actual reporting news. You can't break away from that to share an unfounded conspiracy theory that states you were going to take down your employer. I know it's shocking that announcing you're going to take down your employer results in you getting fired, but I guess that's just the way things work in a capitalist society, right? But what is this bombshell report she had, by the way? What is this bombshell? And I will tell you by pulling up, where is this? Ivory Hecker. I had it up, but now I can't find it. Here it is, right here. So according to Ivory Hecker, what she breaks with Project Veritas the next day, I'm not going to play Project Veritas's clip, is that basically they wouldn't let her do a story about Bitcoin on the 5 o'clock news. Also, I put on the wrong thing here. Basically, they wouldn't let her do a story about Bitcoin on the 5 o'clock news. Also, apparently, they wanted her to look at what experts were saying about hydroxychloroquine when Trump was pushing it as the great COVID-19 cure. They wanted her to look into that and not just repeat what was being debunked by professionals in the medical and scientific space. That's the big. It was basically a 10-minute video where she sat down with James O'Keefe, and she privately recorded the assistant news director at Fox 26 as she sat down with her. And basically, they said in the clip that it was an editorial choice to not cover a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin because it likely would not appeal to the station's early evening broadcast viewership. They also go on to say that I've passed on Bitcoin stories from almost every single reporter for our 5 o'clock audience because that's not our 5 o'clock audience. Folks, I don't know if you know this, but journalists have editors who they work with to formulate stories. It's a lot like any other job where you have people you work with to edit your work, to oversee your work, to make sure that you're going in the right direction in terms of, and for reporters, it's usually, you have a story and an editor helps you basically form the story, basically encourages you to go after certain leads that they think is a good place for the story to go. They encourage you to basically pursue certain topics or certain things that the reporter pitches towards them. An editor will also look at the story when it's done and help basically shape it, rewrite some parts so it's more digestible by the audience. That's because as a reporter and as anyone who creates content can tell you, when you are working on your own creative work or reporting work or whatever it might be, basically you get so deep into it that sometimes you can't tell how outsiders wouldn't understand your explanation because you already know it all when you're covering something. You're already deep into the story. You've spoken to all the experts. You've researched the topic immensely. You've uncovered some sort of news that no one else has really come across. No one knows it better than you. So the editor helps you basically present it to an audience so they too could understand it, because the editor has the ability to look at it with a third-party bird's eye view that you can't, because again, you're deep into it. They also will tell you, hey, this isn't really gonna hit with the audience that this is for. Doesn't mean it's not a good story. Doesn't mean it's not a good thing. It's just not. This is not the place for it. That happens all the time. That's basically just what this is what the job is. I mean, there's nothing here. I wish there was some bombshell story that would take down News Corp and Fox News. But this is just a normal local news station doing local news. But, Project Veritas saw something here because obviously they're looking to take down Fox News because they're feuding with Fox because Fox isn't far right enough for some people anymore. Obviously they love Tucker and people like that, but Fox generally, just unbelievable. These guys don't understand the basics of what they're talking about ever. It's like unbelievable. By the way, she's raised something like $70,000, by the way, on GoFundMe or something, the weather lady. And for the last story of the day, I recently actually had a little debate. This was a few weeks ago, a little scuffle with Tim Pool on Twitter. And Tim Pool, let me actually pull up the tweet here. I want to be able to share exactly how our little back and forth went. So I replied to a Tim Pool. Well, basically, Tim Pool shared. You guys might remember there was that reporter, fresh out of college for AP News, who basically got fired over her pro-Palestinian activism in college. And Tim Pool replied, she posted pro-Palestine stuff as an employee and AP fired her. How is this Ben Shapiro's fault when she even says she was fired for what she posted after May 3rd as an employee? This is obviously in reference to the idea that the right wanted her scalp, basically. They found her tweets about Palestine and the Palestinians, and they wanted her basically to suffer consequences over it. And what she tweeted really was just sharing how the news media covers Israel and Palestine. That was really the bulk of what she was writing, and that's completely legit for a journalist to talk about media critique of how news organizations cover certain things. I don't find anything wrong with that. And so I replied to Tim Pool, the idea that working at a news outlet means you can never have or share an opinion on any issues whatsoever is ludicrous. And yet I'm absolutely not surprised that the free speech advocates have this view. And so Tim Pool replied to me, and this is where I have the tweets clipped for you guys to see. Tim Pool replied to me, I am absolutely not surprised that the activist doesn't know standard journalist ethics. There's no argument, only a misunderstanding of what journalism is, what standard ethics are, and your desire for political outcome. This is why journalism is on fire. Well, it's good to know that I'm the reason journalism is on fire. I didn't realize I had such power. But anyway, first of all, there is no rules that state that journalists can't have opinions of their own. No, I'm sorry. There's also, I don't know what Tim Pool is talking about when your desire for a political outcome. There's also a such thing called activist journalism, where basically you are quite open about you are progressive, you are a right winger. I mean, literally, most journalism today is activist journalism. I mean, the idea that there's some sort of completely unbiased middle ground, that there's no one putting their fingers on the scale, is bullshit. But at least people like myself disclose all the time and are completely transparent. Like, no, there's no question about what my politics are. I always deal in factual, legit information. I never lie or spread misinformation or disinformation or bullshit or fake news to make my point. But I report stories, obviously, that I feel have a need to be told. And obviously those stories will reflect my belief about certain things. That's, I don't see how that is an affront to journalism. That's literally what all journalism is. I mean, mainstream media literally toes corporate line, constantly pushes out basically whatever a corporation says to them in terms of what is, like, for example, we see right now that there was that clip of a shoplifter at Walgreens going viral. And basically, mainstream media just took wholesale the idea that Walgreens is closing stores because of shoplifting, a shoplifting epidemic. But that's not true. But they all went with it anyway. But that's not true. Those stores were slated to be closed well before there was any sort of shoplifting epidemic, way before there was even COVID. But, that's what they went with because that's what they do. Right-wing media also plays a role in pushing their own agenda. The idea that there's some sort of first of all, if you're doing journalism and not explaining to people what information means, you're not doing your job at all. The idea that you just throw out facts and figures and expect the people who read this stuff to know what to do with it is ridiculous. Ridiculous. If something is bad for people and your factual information, your facts, your figures, your expert analysis that the people you've talked to all tell you that this is bad for people, and you just put out something without telling people that it is bad because you were worried that that would give you some sort of bias, you are not doing your job. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, if you're doing journalism about climate change and you're just throwing out like just completely random facts and figures without saying, hey, these facts and figures mean that the climate crisis is getting really bad, then what the hell are you doing? Like, what's the point? And obviously that would be seen as some sort of left-wing ideal, right? So you can't push that climate change is a crisis, right? I mean, then I don't understand why are you even talking about it? Anyway, back to Tim Pool. Tim says all this stuff. And so I'm thinking to myself, what? Tim Pool, of all people, saying this? I look over at his bio then, because I knew something was off. Obviously, what Tim Pool is arguing is that if you are a journalist, you cannot claim to be on a certain side, right? Well, look at Tim Pool's bio on Twitter. Tim Pool, journalist, disaffected liberal. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, you can't even make shit up like this. This is fucking hilarious, right? I mean, this guy's claiming that you can't have any sort of bias. You can't be open about what your bias is. And here he is right there telling you up front that he's a disaffected liberal, which means right there he's going to be against anything left of center, right? Because that's a liberalism, right? And then he goes ahead and announces this. I believe it was yesterday. Tim Pool announces, well, the person he hires announces. He retweets it. Cassandra Fairbanks. So, a lot of you already guessed last night after Tim Pool vaguely mentioned it. I'm the new editor-in-chief, I'm the new editor-in-chief for the news side of timcast.com. That's Tim Pool's website. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're going to claim that you are, where was this tweet? A journalist, understanding of standard journalistic ethics, what standard ethics are, and no desire for political outcome, and hire Cassandra Fairbanks, who's written for white supremacist website VDare, who's written for the Gateway Pundit, who spread constant misinformation and frankly fake news and bullshit, lied about Antifa attacking her home when it turned out that it was someone in her neighborhood, a neighbor of hers or something, setting off fireworks 2 blocks away or something like that. You were going to hire Cassandra Fairbanks, who straight up, remember, no political affiliation, right? No, here's a tweet from Cassandra Fairbanks. No matter who ultimately wins, Trump or the cheaters, we must work to get someone 1,000 times meaner and more nationalist than Trump in there for 2024. Payback. This is those good old journalistic standards you got over there, Tim Pool? What a joke, man. At least just admit it. Admit what you are. Admit it. There's nothing wrong with it if you admit it. You are a right-wing news outlet. You provide a right-wing analysis for your right-wing audience, and you hire right-wing talking heads, influencers, and pundits to provide that right-wing news analysis. Nothing wrong with it if you just admit it. That's what it is. Why aren't you being transparent? Why are you lying to your audience who are, honestly, if you think that Tim Pool is not what I just said he was after he hires Cassandra Fairbanks and has in his profile that he's a disaffected liberal who's also a journalist, but claims that he doesn't have a political affiliation or political slant. Just, if you fall for that, I guess, I mean, whatever. But this is what you're doing for your audience. You're just lying to them. You're just lying to them. Oh, and Abby tweets out that, oh, Tim Pool follows you? Yeah, Tim Pool follows me. I follow him too. I like following what some of these guys are up to. He started following me a while ago, and then I think he unfollowed me, but then he followed me again when he wanted me on his show. I have to get back on seeing if he still wants me on. I would do Tim Pool's show. We just couldn't get it together because COVID, you know? But let's play this clip. Because Tim Pool himself knows who Cassandra Fairbanks is because he's talked about it before. Let me play this clip for you right now. This is from a great Twitter account who put this together. It's just basically a compilation at Tim Pool clips of Tim Pool on Cassandra Fairbanks.
Well, you were talking about having Cassandra Fairbanks do fact-checking, though. That's a little...
I wasn't talking about having Cassandra do fact-checking.
Okay.
No, I'm friends with Cassandra, but...
Pretty sure you were.
Yeah. No, Cassandra's... I like Cassandra. I think she's great. I think she's partisan. And what
was that? What'd you say? What was that? What'd you say? I'm sorry. Let me just refer back to the tweet here. This was what he said to me. I'm absolutely not surprised the activist doesn't know standard journalistic ethics. There's no argument, only a misunderstanding of what journalism is, what standard ethics are, and your desire for a political outcome. This is why journalism is on fire. Here's what he said about his new editor-in-chief, who he just hired, before he hired her.
Cassandra, I think she's great. I think she's partisan.
What? Huh?
I think she's partisan.
Huh?
She's great. I think she's partisan.
Huh?
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 I think she's partisan.
What was that?
I think she's partisan.
Say that again?
I think she's partisan.
What was that?
I think she's partisan.
Huh?
I think she's partisan.
Can you repeat that?
I think she's partisan.
What?
I think she's partisan.
Oh, what?
I think she's partisan.
What?
I think she's partisan. I think she's partisan. I think she's partisan. And I want to hire actual journalists and be like,
what? Huh?
Go.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Lists. I want to hire actual journalists. Want to hire actual journalists.
What?
Want to hire actual journalists.
Excuse me?
I want to hire actual journalists.
Huh?
I want to hire actual journalists.
What was that?
I want to hire actual journalists.
Say that again?
And I want to hire actual journalists and be like, go.
Mm-hmm.
Go do journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Oh boy. You know, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. I love it. Let's put those side by side. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's too good. Too good, man. Just be honest. I don't like. There's nothing wrong with just being honest, man. Just be honest. Just be open with what you are and what you're doing, because disclosing is totally cool and good and what you should be doing. This bullshit is just like, come on, come on, come on, come on. Ah, Tim Pool, Timmy. I say that because I know somebody who was once Tim Pool's roommate, and they told me that their one memory of Tim Pool was that he just spent a lot of time in his room watching South Park all day. So that explains a lot, honestly. That explains a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I enjoyed doing that. I saw that one or two people found that annoying, but I thought it was really funny. I think a lot more people agreed with me that it was funny. How was I not going to play that over and over again? All right, guys. This has been a great show. Went on really long. I wish I did that clip earlier because I think we're getting some good comments coming. And Zoe was the stream is a bit late, I guess. And Zoe just said, "Did he just make a South Park reference?" Yeah, I had to. I guess if you you have to wait for the next piece of information. I teased it, right? All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. As always, someone said, I thought the stream broke. Right. I was wondering how long I should do it for, but it just felt, honestly, to me, it just felt right to keep going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not already a patron, if you're not already a patron on Patreon, and most of you who are at this point are, but if you're watching on the live stream, you're possibly not. I really would appreciate if you would consider. I'm not going to say I appreciate if you become, because I'm not going to, it's forcing you, but take a look at what I do. Take a look at what I provide. Take a look at what you think this could become, what more I could do, because my goal really is to do more shows a week. Like, I wouldn't just be someone who, more patrons, I'll just sit back and relax and take this money and, and continue to do one show a week. No, my goal is to do more shows. If I could do this every day, I would totally do it every day. I would love to bring on people. I'd love to do panel shows with a regular group of panelists and maybe even find, like, if I did multiple days, like a co-host for Tuesdays and a separate co-host for Thursdays, and like the usual doomed Thursdays where I just do myself and a guest. These are just ideas I'm throwing out there, possibilities that could come from growing this show. So patreon.com/MattBinder if you can afford to do so. Human Capital Stock says, when will you set up Twitch properly? I really never really got into Twitch. I know people really like Twitch. Honestly, it's hard because I have more followers on YouTube. So to me, it would be hard to just do more on Twitch that also isn't done on YouTube, because YouTube is where most of my subscribers are. But I should. Zeus says, what else needs to be set up here? Oh, what else needs to be set up here? Talking from Twitch. Right, I think people would like to do, like, people have, like, the emojis, the emoticon, whatever they are on Twitch. I don't have any of that set up. Like, the way you guys can, like, you become a Twitch affiliate and you guys could pay me to get, like, subscribe with, like, your Twitch membership to get, like, the special emojis or whatever. If I had a bigger Twitch audience, I would spend more time doing that. And, I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but I need to focus, I think, on YouTube. And I had people actually ask me to open up the YouTube memberships, where of course you could also, if you become a YouTube subscriber member, like a paid YouTube member, you can get emotes, right? So I mean, I need to figure out. I need to prioritize and figure out what to do. I plan on doing it all, but I need to prioritize. And so that's basically what it comes down to. It's a catch-22, right? Human capital stock, exactly. That's why I simulcast, because I know that there are people on Twitch who watch, like you, Human Capital Stock, and you are Rooter Ricky, who says, "Got to spend time here to get a bigger audience." Right? It's the catch-22, all right? Like Human Capital Stock says, "Got to spend more time on Twitch to get that bigger audience." But 13,000 subscribers on YouTube. Well, what do I got on Twitch? Less than 1,000. If I spend more time on Twitch, I get more. But then it's sort of like starting back a little bit at square one, where I've already built up a small but still sizable YouTube audience. I'll figure it out, I promise. I'm not dissing you Twitch folks. What I would probably do, honestly, is there would be a show for Twitch, a separate Twitch show. And then there would be a separate YouTube show. Logan says Jamie Peck knows how it works. Ask her. But Jamie doesn't have a YouTube show. She's focused strictly on Twitch. And I'll be honest, I know YouTube's been around a lot longer, but I actually think, there's a lot of leftists who are running Twitch shows. And I think YouTube, while there's obviously the big news channels, I think there's still more room for a show like mine. I even just Rooter Ricky says, "I even went to give you bits, but it's not in the normal place to donate." Here's the thing about Twitch: if I become an affiliate, I can't simulcast. They have that rule where Twitch affiliates. They've actually invited me to be a Twitch affiliate because I hit all the whatever you need to become an affiliate. According to the Twitch rules, Twitch shows have to be strictly for Twitch for at least 24 hours. So I couldn't do a simulcast. Right now I'm talking to both my YouTube audience and my Twitch audience. Same stream going to both channels. I can't do that if I become a Twitch affiliate, which I'm not against. But right now, when I'm just doing one show, it would sort of screw up that whole thing. So basically, I'm going to, for now, keep doing this on Twitch the way I'm doing it. I'm going to try maybe to do more one-offs on Twitch. I did one a couple months ago, actually, where I played Fall Guys with Mike from the Humanist Report on Twitch. And that was fun. I got to do more of that. But, I need to figure out things on how I'm going to do that. And then I will definitely, have a separate Twitch show and have a separate YouTube show. Human Capital Stock says left Twitch is getting really good. Right. Rooter Ricky says, "I tried to gift a sub and that's not there either. Other channels do it though. How do they? Even Majority Report." I don't think Majority Report simulcasts their show. When I'm on Thursdays, I don't think we're also on Twitch. Human Capital Stock says, yes, first partners can simulcast. Is that true? What does that mean? High Level Ideas say, yeah, Pac-Man and Cedar have contracts that allow it. Really? I am High Level Ideas. I didn't know that. Shit. John Renee says, didn't Darkside Phil get suspended once for Twitch partner YouTube simulcast? I don't know then. I have to look more into it. Trekkie says you could probably get that restriction removed, but it would take negotiations to get removed from a contract. Right. The default is definitely you can't simulcast if you're a Twitch affiliate or Twitch partner. You guys are naming like pretty big shows who probably have like power to do that. Like Peter Low Frequency says, doesn't TYT simulcast? TYT probably has the power to say, if you want TYT on Twitch, you need to let us do both. And what's Twitch going to say to them? No. Same with Pac-Man and I guess Majority Report to an extent, but TYT especially. I'll definitely look more into it. I appreciate, honestly, I'm having this discussion because I appreciate you Twitch folks for being on there and wanting me to do more stuff on there. I really, in fact, just talking to you guys right now is making me want to do an extra Twitch show, to be quite frank. Here's the deal. Follow me on Twitch. Subscribe to me on YouTube. And we will definitely, I will definitely figure out something, because the fact that you guys are trying to figure this out for me means that you want me on Twitch really bad. And how am I gonna say no? How am I gonna say no to you guys? I can't say no to you guys. Come on. You're like my it's like when my 2-year-old comes up to me and she's like, "Can I go on phone, Daddy?" And I'm like, how do I say no to that? How do I say no? Of course you can go on the phone. Your mom just told me you absolutely cannot go on the phone because she doesn't want you to have any screen time right now. How could I say no anyway? I'll take the fight with your mom just because you looked at me and said, "Phone, Daddy?" How am I going to say no? How am I going to say no? Ricky says, ask Sam to pull strings for you. Yeah, I don't know. I'll see about that. But maybe I'll just have to play the game for now and just give you guys another show. Peter Low Frequency says, Matt Binder isn't bigger than TYT? Unfortunately, not yet. Unfortunately, no. No, unfortunately not. My newest patron, David T, is asking me to do some N64 wrestling, No Mercy or WCW NWA Revenge on Twitch. That would be a lot of fun. Those are two of my favorite video games of all time. I will think about that. I would need to get an emulator, obviously, because I don't have N64 anymore. Yeah, I will definitely. Everyone's telling me that they all do. A bunch of people do these shows on Twitch now. Who else is it? Jeez. And also, Nomiki also simulcasts. Is she a Twitch partner? Oh my God. All right, it's almost 1 a.m. here. I'm feeling it, guys. I actually did purchase things to start setting up, because after I did that Fall Guys Humanist Report thing, I had a lot of fun with that with Mike. And I was like, I got to do more. And of course, things happen, and I didn't get a chance to do more. But talking with you guys, I will definitely set time aside to do some lefty video game streaming. If not the N64 wrestling games right now, I will 100% do some streaming. Whether it's I have Fortnite, I got Fall Guys. I recently signed up for this beta of this new platform that basically allows, because I had listeners in mind when I signed up for this, multiplayer old school games over the internet where only I need to have the game, and then you guys could, or at least 3 other of you can play with me on the stream. Ruder Ricky says, Twitch is my favorite platform to watch shows on. I'm 42, so it's not a youngster thing. Here's the funny thing. I feel like old man when I go on Twitch because it's really the only social, along with Snapchat, it's the only two social media platforms that to me have like too much going on. Like it's not just like it's a new platform because I get TikTok. Like I'm not on TikTok really, but I get it. Like I go on there just to like passively watch, and I get all the different things that you can do on there. But Twitch is sometimes confusing to me, to be honest. With all the different how there's followers, subscriptions, bits, all that shit is too much for me sometimes. But I see the appeal in it as well, obviously. LCL Null says, "Yo, Matt, are you going to the AEW show in New York?" I would like to actually. Also because it's a rare wrestling show that is in my area. Like not just New York City, like in my area. I mean the borough of Queens. So I haven't been to a wrestling show in a while, obviously because of COVID. But yeah. Damn, you guys are really selling me on Twitch. I guess I got to start doing a separate Twitch show. Maybe what I'll do is, aside from the video game stuff, maybe as the patrons grow and I got more time to do this stuff, because when I also want to explain to you guys, with my full-time job, obviously I got 2 kids as well, 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I do a lot of freelance stuff because obviously growing family, money is tight, gotta do what I can. When I say the Patreon enables me to do more, I mean it. It's not just like, oh, I want more money and then you guys get more stuff. No, I mean like if I can replace something I do freelance in my spare time after work and in between being a dad, if I could replace that with doing stuff for this show, then I would do that in a heartbeat. And one day, and this is not possible right now, I would say we're about 1/5 of the way we would need to get for me to do this. Maybe close to 1/4 of the way. I would do this full time even if I had the opportunity, and do literally shows all the time. But I can't do that right now, unfortunately. But the Patreon's definitely growing, and so that's why I want to give you guys more, even if it's just like one extra show, or maybe like instead of going, Jesus Christ, almost 4 hours on a Thursday night, maybe I just go an hour and a half or 2 hours on a Thursday night, and then do an hour and a half or 2 hours on another night and split the show up so we cover different things and cover more things. But I better jump now before I go crazy. But yeah, I really another thing I enjoy about the second half of the show with you guys is that, as you can see, I like shooting the shit. I like talking, just real talk with you guys. Get you like in the in the my train of thought, how I'm thinking, how I'm looking at this stuff. Like I share this with you guys. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing. I'm, like I said, I'm completely transparent. And I explain to you guys why I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Ruder Ricky says, you can get a lot of money from Twitch if you hang with your audience. I find myself shocked how much more money I throw at a show just because of Twitch. Isn't it just the equivalent, though, of super chats on YouTube? And like, it's actually been lower for me on super chat recently, but there was a time where I was getting maybe like close to $100 every show on super chat. But I mean, I guess maybe Twitch it's different. I don't know. Is there a reason why people give more money on Twitch, or is it the same thing? All right, I'm reading these super chats and then that's it. Peter says, "Love all your content, Matt. What do you think of NPR? I have a growing frustration as I absorb more progressive news and see what Fox News is doing." I know it's a super chat. I feel terrible doing this, but can you ask me that question next week? You don't even have to do it as a super chat. I'll get to it. I'll remember this super chat. Just ask me that same question next week. It doesn't have to be a super chat again, but I'll remember that it was a super chat this week, and I'll get to it for sure. Imseti with a $20 super chat. Thank you. Prairie with a super chat. Lightning bugs are out. It's officially summer. I had that same train of thought a few days ago when I saw a lightning bug. That's it for me. When I see a lightning bug, that's it. We are in summer, baby. I love. They're my favorite bugs. Love lightning bugs. Fireflies, as we call them here. I don't know if you guys call them fireflies in Nebraska, Prairie. Orb says with a 666 super chat, please allow me to introduce myself. Hey, Orb. Imseti with a $10 super chat. Matt, go to bed so I can go to bed. I like that. All right, guys, that is the show for today. Yeah, all right, that's the show for today, folks. Ruder Ricky, this is what I was waiting for, the answer to my question about Twitch. Gift subs are a huge thing. All right, maybe I'll have to do it. We'll have to do it. All right, folks, have a great... Logan also says it's easier on Twitch to give a small amount or not realize how much you are in on Twitch. I can't scam you guys, though. That sounds like cryptocurrency to me, where you don't realize how much you're spending to get whatever. I don't want to bilk you guys out of more money than you intend to spend. But I get it, what you're saying. Anyway, have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Great show. Really enjoyed talking with you all. And I will see you all next time on Doomed.